Chapter 775. Maybe. Yelvis's expression was still solemn. That mysterious power made his heart palpitate a little. Originally, Yelvis planned to kill Chao Hong and the others, and then pull out the spirit god to search their souls. In this way, he could extract all the memories in the other party's mind. Although the spirit god could also directly extract the memories, it was rare for experts to do so. After all, there was a certain risk in the spirit god's possession. No matter how strong the person was, it was impossible to succeed in the possession with a 100% success rate. Once the possession failed, even the existence of the Devil Emperor had no way to resist the consequences of death. So, Yelvis didn't have the idea of possession. He just wanted to extract the spirit god of Chao Hong and the others, and then slowly search their souls and plunder their memories. But what he didn't expect was, the other party's spirit god was protected by a mysterious power, and he couldn't take it. It was just that when the spirit god of Chao Hong and the others escaped, Yelvis felt a little lucky. He was glad that he didn't take the risk of possession. Or else, in front of that mysterious power, he didn't have the confidence to contend. On the other side, a white light appeared in the city, and Chao Hong and the others had already appeared there. At this moment, they all had a blank look on their faces. The previous death was too much of a breakthrough. Until now, they hadn't completely reacted. After a long while, they barely came back to their senses. Chao Hong swallowed his saliva, and his voice was still trembling. The one who attacked before was the Devil Emperor of the Ma Xiaoluo clan. On the system interface, he could see who killed him. Yelvis, the Devil Emperor of the Ma Xiaoluo clan. Since the war between the Heavenly Court and the Void Evil Demon clan, the famous experts of the several clans were also known by others. So, Chao Hong was no stranger to the name Yelvis. It's not a loss to die in the hands of the Devil Emperor. Although we dropped a level, we still recorded the landmarks. Unfortunately, the imprint was erased. Lu Qinghong shook his head. It doesn't matter if the imprint is erased, as long as the landmarks are still there, Chao Hong said in a deep voice. The landmarks were the main thing, and the imprint was only an auxiliary function. Without the imprint and only the landmarks, they could also find the Ma Xiaoluo clan, but the process would be more troublesome. Immediately, the few of them went to the Heavenly Court branch. Since he had found the Ma Xiaoluo clan, he had to submit the mission. Moreover, such a quest was unique. If another party submitted it, they would not be able to submit the same quest. Therefore, Chao Hong and the others did not dare to waste any more time. If someone else really snatched it from him, he wouldn't even have a place to cry. Heavenly Court. After plucking all the wool from the myriad races, Qin Shujian had been cultivating in the Heavenly Court. He only had one goal, and that was to improve his strength as much as possible. However, no new true immortals were born. If he wanted to increase his strength, he could only start from the mother stream. During this period of time, Qin Shujian entered the mother stream of precepts almost continuously, searching for suitable precepts to comprehend. The stronger he was, the stronger he was. The obstructions one would encounter in the mother stream would also be stronger. Every time he entered, it was accompanied by great risk. After simply recovering from his injuries, Qin Shujian had intended to enter the mother stream of precepts again to comprehend the new precepts. Without waiting for him to move, he sensed an intense nomological fluctuation coming from the Heavenly Court. Someone is about to become an immortal! Qin Shujian's heart skipped a beat, and in the next instant, he left the inner hall. In the outer hall, the osmanthus tree grew crazily, and the original flower buds had all bloomed. The refreshing fragrance soaked the entire Heavenly Court. The mother stream of precepts trembled faintly. It swept out like a painting, and in the blink of an eye, it crossed the sky. On the osmanthus tree's body, there was a dense rule lingering around it, and the sound of rushing and rumbling could be heard endlessly. Emperor of Heaven, I'm about to become an immortal! The osmanthus tree trembled, and Mu Yang's voice came from inside. His tone was as calm as ever, but now that one listened carefully, one could hear the unconcealable joy. Qin Shijian nodded. Go, this is your opportunity. Yes. As soon as Mu Yang finished speaking, the osmanthus tree completely pulled out of the heavenly court, and immediately after, it sank into the mother stream of precepts. Not long after, the mother stream of precepts shook. An osmanthus tree crashed out of the mother stream, directly opening up a long river of precepts. Such a change. It also attracted the attention of the immortals and gods of the heavenly court. Right now, the power of the stars was rich, so it was not strange for powerhouses of the myriad clans to become immortals. But if there were powerhouses in the heavenly court who became immortals, then it was worth paying attention to. Those immortals with deity positions were fine. Although it attracted their attention when a cultivator became an immortal, they were not too shocked. However, this was not the case for the heavenly soldiers and heavenly generals. After all, no matter how strong the heavenly soldiers and heavenly generals were, they were only cultivators of the celestial realm. A true immortal. Even the weakest true immortal was an existence worthy of their admiration. Therefore, one could imagine the shock caused by a powerhouse becoming an immortal. That's Mu Yang! Now that Qin Yuanbai, who was a heavenly general, saw the existence who opened up the long river of precepts, there was a look of surprise in his eyes. As the current sacred lord of the Qianyuan sacred ground, how could he not know Mu Yang? And it was not as simple as just knowing him. Before Mu Yang left the Qianyuan sacred ground, Qin Yuanbai and Mu Yang had a lot of exchanges. But what he did not expect was, Mu Yang could become an immortal one step ahead of him. Compared to himself, who was still unable to take that step, Qin Yuanbai's heart was filled with mixed feelings. Without comparison, there would be no harm. Everyone was from the Qianyuan sacred ground. Strictly speaking, Mu Yang was his junior. However, a junior had walked ahead of him. It was easy to imagine how he felt right now. Mu Yang has become an immortal. It's time for the Eldar to officially rise. In the eastern continent, in the imperial city of Zhongzhou, Emperor Zhao looked up at Mu Yang in the sky. His expression did not change much. Now that true immortals had been born in all clans, it could be said that the decline after the ancient times had gradually eased. Not counting the races that had been destroyed, the Eldar was probably the weakest race now. All the plants in the world, as long as they had spiritual wisdom, were classified as Eldar. On this basis, it also indirectly proved that the Eldar would not really be destroyed. However, since the ancient times had been destroyed, the Eldar had not produced any decent powerhouses. 200,000 years ago, the Eldar had collapsed and there was no way for them to be unified again. In this case, the Eldar existed in name only. But now that Mu Yang had become an immortal, it meant that the Eldar had finally produced its first true immortal after 1,000,000 years. At this moment, Mu Yang had become an immortal. It would also be noticed by the Eldar of the 4 major continents. It would not be long before the Eldar of the 4 major continents came to look for their emperors. When that time came, the Eldar, who had disappeared for a long time, should reappear in the 4 major continents. Chapter 776. After taking a few simple glances, Emperor Vao retracted his gaze. Below him, the officials of the great Zhao dynasty stood quietly. Ever since the establishment of the heavenly court, the 10,000 races had been unified. However, it did not mean that the original system of the various races would completely disappear. The establishment of the heavenly court. It was purely to unify the 10,000 races and fight against foreign enemies at the same time. In fact, the order that the various races should have still needed the original system to maintain. After all, there were only so many immortals in the heavenly court. It was impossible to rely on these immortals to maintain the order of the various races. As a result, in the human race, there were no changes in the imperial court of the great Zhao dynasty. As the current human emperor, Emperor Zhao spent most of his time cultivating in the heavenly court. The rest of his time was spent returning to the eastern continent to deal with the corresponding affairs of the imperial court. Fortunately, now that the heavenly court had been established, there was also the invasion of the evil demon clan in the void. There was no chaos in the human race either. Even if Emperor Zhao was not always in charge of the eastern continent, the people in the imperial court were enough to maintain the stability of the human race. There would not be any major chaos. If there's anything to report, the court is dismissed. Emperor Zhao's dignified voice sounded. Immediately, the officials also completely recovered from the influence of Mu Yang's ascension. Dan Hao cupped his hands and said, "Your Majesty, half a year ago, there were many strange movements in the sea area of the Eastern Pattern Prefecture. Ferocious beasts that rarely appeared in the past have appeared frequently in the periphery. In addition, natural disasters have also appeared frequently in the sea area. And those natural disasters seem to be of the same kind. They are like fire clouds. All the humans who come into contact with the natural disasters, regardless of their strength, directly die. Because of this, there are many people who dare to enter the sea area to explore." When talking about the sea area, the others also had solemn expressions. Now that the human race was powerful, there was almost no place in the 4 great continents that could stop the human race. There were only 2 places. The human race did not dare to easily enter. One was Heavenly Abyss, and the other was the sea area. Heavenly Abyss existed in the western continent, and had little to do with the human race. However, the sea area existed in the eastern continent. It was equivalent to a time bomb that could explode at any time. Even if there were many powerful experts in the human race now, no one dared to easily enter. Because over the years, it was not that there were no experts of the human race who entered the sea area, but most of them had died in front of natural disasters and ferocious beasts. There were very few people who could return alive. It could be said, those who could cultivate to this level were not fools. Without seeing the practical benefits, it was impossible to rashly enter the sea to die. It was fine at first. As the strength of the human race increased, many people became arrogant. But now that so many experts had fallen, the other people's inflated hearts calmed down once again. Emperor Zhao's expression didn't change. "There's a supreme being in the depths of the Dead Sea region, but the sea region is an unbreakable seal for that being. Those ferocious beasts were born in the sea region, so there are restrictions on them. Unless it was a last resort, dire beasts would not leave the sea without permission. As for natural disasters in the sea, they would only appear in the sea because that was the rule. He ordered all humans not to approach the sea region without permission to avoid dying for no reason. At the same time, mobilize the army to guard the East Pattern Mansion to prevent the ferocious beasts from leaving the sea and attacking the human territory." "Yes, sir." The officials bowed. Emperor Zhao continued, "Aside from that sealed existence in the ocean of death, there are also many powerful ferocious beasts. Not to mention the celestial being realm, there are also many true immortal realm beasts. All of you must remember my words." In order to prevent others from not knowing the dangers of the ocean of death, Emperor Zhao reminded them again. Regarding the sea region, there was a great fear in his heart. Even though he had broken through to the 3rd level of the true immortal realm, Emperor Zhao was not confident that he could fight against the existence in the depths of the ocean of death. Because it was an expert that even the ancient Emperor of Heaven was afraid of. Even the current heaven and earth. In his opinion, he might not be able to fight against the existence in the depths of the ocean of death. As for the riot in the sea region, Emperor Zhao was not worried. Not to mention the existence of the heavenly court, the current strength of the human race alone was enough to deal with the ferocious beasts in the ocean of death. The premise was, the existence in the depths of the sea should not break the seal and come out. But in Emperor Zhao's opinion, there was no possibility of the other party breaking the seal and coming out. Soon, Emperor Zhao's order was passed down. Then, a large number of troops were mobilized to the East Pattern Mansion. The fishing villages in the East Pattern Mansion near the sea region had all been moved to other places. And the Imperial Court had also established a strong defense line here. At this moment, Mu Yan had also successfully reached the end of the long river of laws. There was a law monument standing there. looking at the law monument in front of him. Mu Yang hesitated for a moment, then bombarded it with the rattan branches, and the violent power poured on the law monument. Boom! The law monument shook violently. When it was impacted, the entire long river of laws also trembled violently. Another expert who didn't take the traditional system to become an immortal. The true immortals of the myriad races raised their heads and saw the scene of Mu Yang bombarding the law monument. He shattered the law monument. Then, he cut off a section of the law and used his body to carry it. Although the true immortals of the myriad races didn't understand this method very well, they still knew a lot. Because Mu Yang was not the first person to become an immortal in this way. Long before, the current Eastern war god, Shao Chengfeng, had used this method to prove his Tao. Now, Mu Yang had also used this method to prove his Tao. Many true immortals had inexplicable expressions on their faces as they firmly remembered everything about Mu Yang. Will becoming an immortal like this be even more powerful? Zhu Chen's eyes flickered. Not many people really knew about the physical establishing sage system. Right now, the powerhouses of the myriad races who had become immortals all took the traditional path of Tao proving, which was a certain extent different from the physical establishing sage. Now that he saw Mu Yang's Tao proving, Zhu Chen also had some thoughts in his heart. After all, he was already a powerhouse at the limit of the heavens and was only one step away from becoming an immortal. Therefore, Zhu Chen was also very cautious about his future path of immortal ascension. If this method of Tao proving was stronger than the traditional method of Tao proving, then there was no need for him to take the traditional system. However, such a brand new system of Tao proving was not something that anyone could do. Including Mu Yang, there were only 2 people who had proven their Tao like this. He wasn't completely confident. Zhu Chen didn't dare to act on his own. On the other side, the law monument had already been shattered. The moment the law monument shattered, the long river of laws also collapsed. Mu Yang immediately followed the method of physical establishing sage and grabbed a section of the long river of laws and directly fused it into his body. Just as the rules fused into his body, the lightning tribulation had already successfully condensed. Just as the lightning hadn't completely descended, Mu Yang directly left the range of the heavenly court. In the next second, boom! Chapter 777. Shocking thunderbolts came crashing down, shaking heaven and earth. The Immortal Ascension Tribulation. Ever since Shao Chengfeng became an immortal, the races of the 4 continents finally saw the Immortal Ascension Tribulation again. That terrifying aura. Even the Immortal Ascension experts couldn't help but change their expressions. What a powerful lightning tribulation! Zhu Chen's expression was very serious. The last time Shao Chengfeng went through the tribulation, he wasn't strong enough and couldn't accurately experience the terror of the Immortal Ascension Tribulation. Now Mu Yang was going through the tribulation. Only then could Zhu Chen clearly feel how terrifying the power of the lightning tribulation was. Even with his current strength, he had the illusion that he would be destroyed at any time in front of the lightning tribulation. The tribulation has begun. In the heavenly court, Qin Shujian put his hands behind his back and looked at Mu Yang, who was going through the tribulation directly in the atmosphere. His expression didn't change much. Mu Yang had already started cultivating the purple heaven divine lightning scripture when he imparted it to him. More than a year. Mu Yang had attracted the lightning tribulation many times to temper his body. Since he dared to go through the tribulation to become an immortal, he must have considerable confidence to do so. Otherwise, Mu Yang wouldn't go through the tribulation easily. As long as there are no accidents, the probability of success is very high. Qin Shujian understood when he saw that the lightning tribulation didn't shake the branches and leaves of the osmanthus tree. Based on the current situation, unless Mu Yang deliberately sought death, there wouldn't be any difficulty in going through the Immortal Ascension Tribulation. 7 days. The lightning tribulation continued to strike. The duration of the Immortal Ascension Tribulation varied. There was no fixed duration. 7 days had passed. The lightning tribulation between heaven and earth had also reached its final juncture. When the last bolt of lightning struck, the tribulation clouds dissipated with a bang. At the same time, golden flowers scattered in the sky and golden lotuses bloomed on the ground. The phenomenon of immortal ascension had appeared in the four continents once again. The Eldar Emperor has appeared! In the small world of the Jade Wave sect on Heavenly Pattern Island, the branches and leaves of a giant tree swayed. A human face appeared on its thick trunk. In that instant just now, Ancestor Tongtian had sensed the throbbing in the dark. As an Eldar expert of the ancient times, he knew very well what this throbbing represented. That was the birth of an emperor in Eldar. Ever since the fall of the ancient Linghuang, Eldar's strength had gradually weakened until 200,000 years ago, when the last of Eldar's royal aura had disappeared. At this moment, Eldar's emperor aura appeared once more. For a moment, Patriarch Heavenspan found it hard to restrain himself. Now that the emperor has appeared, I, Eldar, will definitely rise. Unfortunately, I can't leave Heavenly Rune Island right now. Otherwise, I would be able to help the Eldar even more. Patriarch Heavenspan sighed with regret. If nothing unexpected happened, he would be imprisoned in Heavenly Rune Island forever and would never have the chance to leave. The only thing he could do for Eldar was to guard his current territory and leave behind the last legacy for Eldar. However, old ancestor Skirich didn't hope that one day, the Eldar of Heavenly Rune Island would become the final foundation of the Eldar. Today, Eldar Emperor Mu Yang has transcended the tribulation and become an immortal. I confer him the title of Guardian General. Qin Shujian stretched out his hand and the investiture of the gods suddenly appeared. The moment Mu Yang bowed, his name appeared on the list. Then, a mysterious force descended, causing Mu Yang's aura to become stronger. The moment he transcended the tribulation and became an immortal. The four great continents. All the silent Eldar woke up at the same time. Then, they climbed the mountains and crossed the mountains, heading towards the fallen immortal region. Mu Yang existed in the Heavenly Court. The Heavenly Court existed in the Astral Wind Layer. Not everyone could enter the Heaven and Earth Astral Wind Layer. Therefore, the Eldar of the four great continents could only go to the fallen immortal region, which was closest to the Heavenly Court. Strictly speaking, the Heavenly Court existed above the fallen immortal region. At this moment, Mu Yang successfully transcended the tribulation. He withdrew his original body and transformed into a young man, landing in front of Qin Shujian. Your subject greets the Emperor of Heaven. This time, he didn't address him as a disciple. Becoming a deity of the Heavenly Court meant becoming an official of the Heavenly Court. He had a relationship with Qin Shujian, the Emperor of Heaven, as a subject. Qin Shujian nodded with a faint smile on his face. The Eldar's system of becoming a sage through the physical body is indeed good. Becoming a true immortal is only the starting point. In the future, you still need to cultivate diligently. Don't slack off. Your subject understands. Mu Yang bowed his head and replied. Qin Shujian said, You've become an immortal. The Eldar of the four great continents are now heading towards the fallen immortal region. The Eldar has disappeared for hundreds of thousands of years. It's time for him to reappear. As the Emperor of the Eldar, you should go and command all the Eldar. In the future, the Eldar will be of great use in dealing with the demon abyss. The Eldar's spiritual energy contained the vitality of heaven and earth. It was the opposite of the demon abyss's demonic energy. If the Eldar had enough experts, by then, they would have a lot of advantages in dealing with the demon abyss. Hearing this, Mu Yang bowed and accepted the order. In the next second, he left the Heavenly Court and headed towards the fallen immortal region. A huge shadow of an osmanthus tree stretched across the sky above the fallen immortal region, covering the vast fallen immortal region. Abundant vitality swept across the world. The Eldar has been gone for hundreds of thousands of years. Today, I have created an Eldar. In the vast thousand domains, all the plants and trees that have given birth to spiritual intelligence will become Eldar. The loud voice spread out in all directions. In the fallen immortal region, Under the cover of vitality, the plants and trees were nourished. In just a moment, some of the plants and trees had given birth to spiritual intelligence and became Eldar. At the same time, all the Eldar who were heading towards the fallen immortal region were energized when they heard the news. In the fallen immortal region, Mu Yang revealed his true form. The osmanthus tree was in full bloom. All the osmanthus flowers drifted in the wind and scattered in all directions. Then, a tree branch bombarded the air and shattered the void. Boom! The void shattered, revealing a pitch-black gap. Mu Yang did not stop. The branches and leaves whipped wildly like hands and feet. The void within 1,000,000 miles shattered like a mirror. Looking at the shattered void above their heads, the cultivators of the fallen immortal region were so frightened that they did not dare to move. They were afraid that the power would leak down and kill them. Boom! Boom! The void within 1,000,000 miles shattered and became chaotic. Seeing this, Mu Yang immediately controlled the shattered void with his celestial core power and forcibly imprisoned it. In the eyes of outsiders, the void fragments froze. Then, countless branches and leaves formed a huge hand and grabbed at the shattered void. The void, which was supposed to have no physical body, was forcibly pulled out. A terrifying darkness appeared in the void. Vast celestial core power surged. Mu Yang's branches and leaves trembled and kept wrapping around the void that was pulled out. Half a day later, the void appeared out of thin air, and then disappeared out of thin air. In the end, Mu Yang's branches and leaves danced wildly as if they were holding up a vast world. Once again, they slammed toward the void that was healing. Rumble! The void buzzed. The small world that belonged to the Eldar was officially opened. Chapter 778. Rebuilding the Eldar. This was to be expected. When they saw Mu Yang become an immortal, many true immortals had some guesses. So, now that the Eldar was reunited, they were not too surprised. At this moment, in the Sea of Death, there were waves raging, as if there were some powerful existences fighting. All of a sudden, tens of thousands of feet of waves erupted. A huge body broke through the waves and fell into the sea. At this moment, flames that were not afraid of seawater rose and instantly engulfed the huge body. Roar, an unwilling roar sounded, but it could not change anything. In the end, the body gradually disappeared, leaving only a fire lotus. Zhang Ergu stepped into the air, grabbed the fire lotus in his hand, and began to absorb the energy contained in the fire lotus. After completely absorbing the fire lotus, a star acupoint trembled and opened. "I'm about to break through." Looking at the densely open star acupoints in his body, Zhang Ergu's face finally had a look of relief. After entering the Sea of Death for a few years, he could not remember how many beasts had died in his hands. Regardless of the strength of the beasts, Zhang Ergu used the red lotus of purgation to refine them and convert them into pure energy for his breakthrough. Until now, he had already opened more than 38,000 star acupoints, completely surpassing the peak of the 6th level of the Celestial Being Realm, and was moving towards the 7th level of the Celestial Being Realm. In terms of talent, Zhang Ergu was not very good. To be able to upgrade the Guiyuan ancestral canon to such a level in a short period of time, it was all thanks to the help of the beasts in the sea. Without the help of ferocious beasts, he would not be able to reach this stage even in a few decades, let alone a few years. Because in the future cultivation of the Guiyuan ancestral canon, every star acupoint opened required a huge amount of energy. In the first 10 days to half a month, an acupoint could be opened. Perhaps in the later stage, it might take a few years to barely open an acupoint. This was the difference. The Cosmos Bao clicked his tongue in wonder. The Emperor of Heaven's cultivation method is really powerful. With the amount of energy you've absorbed over the years, if you were an ordinary cultivator, even a powerhouse at the peak of the Celestial Being Realm would probably explode. However, you've only just stepped out of the realm of Celestial Being Level 6. If one were to really open 129,600-year-old star acupoints, then the power would be world-shocking. He followed Zhang Ergu. The Cosmos Bao knew a lot about the Guiyuan ancestral canon. I'm afraid that I'll have to refine all the ferocious beasts in the entire Dead Sea region to achieve that. Zhang Erge shook his head and lamented helplessly. The fierce beast that he had just killed was in existence at the 8th level of the Deva realm. However, an 8th level Deva fierce beast could only barely open up one acupoint. The difficulty of opening the acupoints in the later stage was far beyond Zhang Erge's imagination. He couldn't believe it. How in the world did Qin Shijian manage to open all 129,600 star acupoints? With the difficulty of opening the star acupoints, Zhang Erge suspected that even if he refined a perfected immortal, he might not be able to open them successfully. However, although he was curious, he didn't intend to explore. Instead, his gaze fell on the longbow beside him. Elder Qian, when can you break through to a 6-seal Dao artifact? It's not that easy to upgrade a Dao artifact. The Bow of Heaven and Earth replied indifferently. After a pause, he continued, under normal circumstances, a Dao artifact needs to absorb a huge amount of spirit energy to upgrade. It will take at least 1,000 years to go from the 5-seal to the 6-seal. However, if there's an abundant amount of energy to nourish it, there's a chance for it to advance quickly. Energy nourishment? Zhang Erge was puzzled. He had just asked casually. He didn't expect the Cosmos Bao to really have something to say. The Cosmos Bao said, energy nourishment is easy to understand. As long as there's enough energy for me to absorb, I can shorten the time needed to advance. The ferocious beasts in the sea rely on absorbing the spirit energy of heaven and earth to survive. They don't cultivate rules, so their flesh and blood are filled with rich energy. If you can kill some powerful ferocious beasts and nourish them with blood, I can speed up my advancement. But looking at you now, I guess you're eating it all by yourself. Zhang Erge was heartless. The Cosmos Bao had a deep understanding. It didn't even have enough energy to absorb. How could it leave any extra for him? Of course. The Cosmos Bao also had some thoughts in its heart. It hoped that Baface would find his conscience and give it some energy. There'll be a chance in the future. The corner of Zhang Erge's mouth twitched. He casually carried the Cosmos Bao on his back. Since he wanted to snatch food from him, he would just pretend that he didn't ask. To this, the Cosmos Bao was also speechless. You should at least pretend. You're so direct, it hurts me. When I have the strength to hunt perfected immortals in the future, I won't forget about you. Elder Qian, don't worry. Zhang Erge heard this and thought for a moment, then gave a decent consolation. The Cosmos Bao was speechless. God knows how many years it would take for him to break through to perfected immortal. After complaining in its heart, the Cosmos Bao composed itself and said in a deep voice, speaking of which, ferocious beasts in the 8th stage of the heavenly human stage are not that useful to you. And now, although you haven't killed all the ferocious beasts in the heavenly human stage, you've killed many of them. Even if you kill all the ferocious beasts in the heavenly human stage, the chances of you breaking through to perfected immortal are very slim. Elder Qian, what do you mean? Why don't you go to the inner region of the sea and take a look? The Cosmos Bao reminded. Hearing this, Zhang Erge fell into deep thought. The inner region of the sea. For the people of the eastern continent, it was a dangerous place. Not to mention the inner region, even the outer region was extremely dangerous without enough strength. The ferocious beasts were one reason. The natural disaster was another. It was only because Zhang Erge was strong enough and had the Cosmos Bao to protect him that he could resist the power of the natural disaster. However, if he entered the inner region, it would be completely different. Because there were ferocious beasts in the perfected immortal stage in the inner region. With Zhang Erge's current strength, which was not even at the 7th stage of the heaven-human stage, he could fight against a ruler at the 10th stage of the heaven-human stage. However, there was still a certain gap between him and a perfected immortal. The Cosmos Bao said, although there are perfected immortal ferocious beasts in the inner region, I don't think there will be too many of them. The real danger in the sea is in the depths, not the inner region. There are even more powerful ferocious beasts there, and even mighty figures are everywhere. If you enter the inner region, your strength will increase even faster. Moreover, with your current strength, if you really encounter a perfected immortal ferocious beast, it shouldn't be a problem for you to escape. The inner region. John Urgu's expression changed. He had to admit that he was indeed tempted. The powerful ferocious beasts in the outer region were almost killed. In comparison, only the inner region could satisfy his needs. Chapter 779. After making a decision, John Urgu immediately flew into the air and headed towards the inner area of the sea. There were natural disasters along the way. But to him, those natural disasters didn't pose any threat. The reason was very simple. Those natural disasters that appeared were all the power imprints that John Urgu had left on the periphery of the sea in the past few years. He hit himself. Although it wasn't easy, it wasn't too difficult either. As for the beasts, there was nothing to stop them. In the past few years, John Urgu had killed countless beasts, and the murderous aura accumulated on his body had reached a terrifying level. Even though the beasts didn't have intelligence, and could only act on instinct, when they sensed the terrifying murderous aura, they also consciously retreated. To a certain extent, the murderous aura accumulated from killing too many beasts was equivalent to a natural protective layer on the periphery of the sea. After all, facing an executioner who had killed countless of their clansmen, even the beasts would feel fear. In the heavenly court, the court meeting was held as usual. "Do you have anything to report?" On the throne, Qin Shujian sat there as steady as Mount Tai, looking down at the gods below. Every word and action was in accordance with heaven and earth, causing the entire heavenly palace to be enveloped by a majestic aura. As soon as he finished speaking, an immortal god stepped forward and cupped his hands. "Emperor of Heaven, not long ago, a mutant came to submit a mission and said that he suspected to have found the location of the Mashia clan. We have also sent cultivators to investigate, but that void is heavily guarded. Many people have died, but they couldn't get close at all." Qin Shujian's expression changed. Then, he looked at the immortal god below and asked faintly, "Did you send a true immortal to investigate?" "Not yet." The immortal god shook his head and then explained, "There are demon king level existences guarding there, and I can't be sure if there are demon emperors guarding there. In addition, the true immortals of the 10,000 clans are precious. If one or two of them died because of this, it won't be worth it. It was too risky to send a true immortal just to confirm whether that place was the territory of the Mashia clan or not. For the current heavenly court, any true immortal was an extremely precious existence. Unless a great war really broke out, the death of any true immortal was a loss that had to be avoided as much as possible." "Where is it?" "Emperor of Heaven, please take a look." The immortal handed over a jade talisman. With a wave of his hand, Qin Shujian shattered the jade talisman and read the information contained within. The information contained in the jade talisman was insignificant to him. In the blink of an eye, Qin Shujian completely absorbed and digested the information in the jade talisman. As the demon emperor of the Mo's Halo clan, the place where Yelvis is overseeing should be where the Mo's Halo clan is located. There's indeed no need to send a true immortal to investigate. I have already memorized the coordinates of this place. Is there any news from the remaining Baido and Yizo clans?" Qin Shujian turned his gaze back to the deities. Seeing this, the gods were all speechless. It was already not easy to get the coordinates of a clan. After all, the outer realm was so vast that it was much larger than the great wide world. In addition, it had only been 2 to 3 years since the Heavenly Court opened up the extraterritorial battlefield. There was no way for them to explore the extraterritorial void completely. Obtain the coordinates of all the clans. That was even more impossible. The Demon Emperor cupped his hands and said, "Reporting to the Emperor of Heaven, although we don't have the coordinates of the other 2 clans, we have locked onto a few locations. There are experts guarding those places, and many variant cultivators have fallen there. If nothing unexpected happens, there must be 2 clans in those places. However, it will still take some time to completely verify it. Do your best to find the location of the other two clans. At the same time, inform the extraterritorial battlefield to not let the Void Evil Demons take advantage of the opportunity to sneak in. Let the myriad clans prepare for war and officially exterminate the Void Evil Demon clan within 5 years. Qin Shujian waved his hand and shouted in a powerful voice. Hearing this, everyone's expression changed. Exterminating the Void Evil Demon clan within 5 years was undoubtedly a very difficult task. Judging from the previous few exchanges, Yi Zichen could tell. The strength of the Void Evil Demon clan was not weaker than the Heavenly Court. If they really went to war, it was very likely that both sides would suffer. After a short silence, an immortal god could not help but say, "Reporting to the Emperor of Heaven, exterminating the Void Evil Demon clan within 5 years is probably too rash. Right now, the power of the stars is rich, and stalling for time is beneficial to us. Why don't we wait for a while more? We will have more confidence." "That's right." The Moon Empress nodded slightly and said coldly, "The 3 clans have many experts. If we really go to war, the immortals of the Heavenly Court are naturally not afraid, but I'm afraid that many perfected immortals of the myriad clans will die. If too many perfected immortals die, it will be disadvantageous for us to fight against the demon abyss in the future." The other immortals did not say anything, but their meaning was similar. Now that the Heavenly Court had a certain advantage, as long as they delayed for enough time, they could expand this advantage. The demon abyss was not a secret. There were also immortals who accidentally entered the demon abyss when exploring the outer realm, but they also retreated in time. As for the distance between the demon abyss and the major kiliacosm, they had a clear estimate of time. There's no need to talk too much about dealing with the Void Evil Demons. I know what to do. Within 5 years, I will attack the 3 clans. There's not much time left for the myriad clans. In addition, nurture the heavenly soldiers as much as possible. I hope to see the heavenly soldiers play a sufficient role when we fight against the 3 clans. Qin Shujian's expression was solemn, and his tone was unquestionable. Within 5 years, the 3 clans had to be settled. At that time, the Heavenly Court would be able to dominate the outer realm. The rest. Only then would they consolidate their strength and fight the demon abyss. Seeing Qin Shujian's firm attitude, the other immortals wanted to refute, but in the end, they did not say anything. "How are the stars and star cores that I asked you to find now?" Qin Shujian changed the topic and said calmly. He did not intend to talk about the 3 clans anymore. Instead, he changed the topic to the stars and star cores. Hearing this, Emperor Zhao was the first to step forward. "I obtained 3 stars and 5 star cores from my trip to the outer realm." As he spoke, he waved his sleeves, and several stone balls floated up into the air and flew towards Qin Shujian. Qin Shujian reached out and grabbed all the stone balls in the air. If one looked carefully, they would discover. Every stone ball had a powerful sealing power on it, and a vast amount of energy was faintly discernible within the stone balls. Then, Qin Shujian stored all the stone balls into the investiture of the gods. The stone balls entered. The god roll trembled slightly. The pressure that was already there intensified by a lot. Below, after Emperor Zhao took out the stars and star cores, the other gods also took out the stars and star cores and handed them to Qin Shujian. Soon, the god roll reached its limit. Chapter 780. After putting away all the stars and star cores, Qin Shujian said, "The matter of collecting the stars and star cores is urgent. You can't slack off. Court dismissed. We'll take our leave." The gods bowed and retreated. Just as they left, Qin Shujian got up from his throne and left the range of the heavenly palace. Above the heavenly court, the sun was shining. The Sanhua sword was still absorbing the power of the stars to nourish itself. Zhou Tian's star map was emitting a powerful pressure. "Emperor of Heaven!" It was a cold greeting without much emotion. Towards Qin Shujian's arrival, Sanhua was already used to it. Anyway, he would come every once in a while. He also understood that Qin Shujian had a completely free attitude towards him. In view of this, Sanhua was more than happy to stay here. However, he also believed that Qin Shujian wouldn't confer him a title for no reason. He definitely had a purpose. He didn't do anything at the moment because it wasn't the right time yet. When the time came, he might understand the other party's purpose. At this moment, Qin Shujian stood above Zhou Tian's star map. The investiture of the gods was opened and all the sealed stars were released. The moment the stone ball appeared, he waved his hand and used his vital essence to break all the seals on it. The seals were broken. A huge star suddenly appeared in the void, and a terrifying pressure crushed the surrounding space into dust. Before the stars fell, Qin Shujian used his vital essence again and forcibly suppressed all the stars. It was different from the way Emperor Zhao and the others completely sealed the stars. To absorb the power of the stars, one couldn't completely seal the stars. Otherwise, even Zhou Tian's star map couldn't absorb any power from the completely sealed stars. So, Qin Shujian's current method was simply to reduce the size of the stars. After the inner heaven and earth law seeds increased, his strength had become much stronger. Even if there were hundreds of stars, he could still suppress them all at once. Under the control of Qin Shujian, all the suppressed stars flew toward Zhou Tian's star map. When it entered the node of Zhou Tian's star map, a terrifying surge of energy suddenly erupted. Rumble! A buzzing sound reverberated throughout the heavenly court. The power that spread out annihilated all the astral winds of heaven and earth that it touched. Immediately after, then, a dense and substantial starlight came crashing down from Zhou Tian's star chart like a pillar of light. Instantly, the heavenly court seemed to be bathed in the Milky Way. At that moment, the immortals and gods of the heavenly court all opened their eyes. When they looked at the scene of the galaxy, their eyes were filled with unerasable shock. Even Chu Kuangtu and Niu Dali looked extremely solemn at this moment. Such stellar energy is comparable to the heavenly court of the First Era. Niu Dali had a strange expression on his face. When he saw the scene that resembled a galaxy, the ancient memories were also unsealed from the dust. The First Era. It was the most powerful era, because that was the beginning of the universe. All the powerful existences reigned supreme in the First Era. Since the Heavenly Court existed in that epoch, it was easy to imagine how powerful the Heavenly Court was. At the peak of their power, even existences at the Tao fruit level had to bow in front of the Heavenly Courts. Although the current stellar energy can't be compared to the Heavenly Courts of the Emperor Juntai era, it's not weaker than the Heavenly Courts of the Great Heaven era. Although it's extreme to drain the pond to fish, the benefits are obvious. With the irrigation of such stellar energy, the experts of the myriad races will definitely spring up like bamboo shoots after the rain. I can also take this opportunity to try to break through to the 7th level immortal realm. Niu Dali thought to himself. There were 2 heavenly courts in the First Era. The first one was established by Emperor Juntai, which was also the most powerful heavenly court in the First Era. If it didn't involve many factors at the Tao fruit level, the most powerful heavenly court wouldn't have collapsed. After the collapse of the first heavenly court, only then did the second heavenly court exist, which was also the heavenly courts of the Great Heaven era. Although the second heavenly court was still powerful, there was still a gap between it and the first heavenly court. However, this gap was relative. Seriously speaking, the heavenly courts of the Great Heaven era could be said to be the strongest compared to the heavenly courts of the other eras. This was an epoch without even a single Tao fruit. A heavenly court that could be comparable to the Great Heaven era in a certain aspect was indeed enough to make people clap their hands in praise. Moreover, in Niu Dali's opinion, the current stellar energy density was still not the peak of this heavenly court. When all 365 heavenly cycle star diagrams were placed into the stars, that would be the true peak. At that time, even the heavenly courts of the Emperor Juntai era were only SOSO. After all, no matter which era it was still very rare to be able to extract stellar energy for one's own use without any restraint like the current era. Coincidentally, this era was the last chance. Coincidentally, the Emperor of Heaven of this era was Qin Shujian. Therefore, that was why there was such a rare opportunity. Niu Dali retracted his gaze from the galaxy and smiled. I really want to see how effective the stellar energy of the heavenly courts of the Emperor Jun Tai era is. In the first era, he only went to the heavenly courts and did not have the chance to cultivate there. He could only look at the terrifyingly rich stellar energy. Because speaking of which, the Grand Pure Holy Man did not have a good relationship with the strongest heavenly courts. Niu Dali was the Grand Pure Holy Man's mount, and did not have the chance to cultivate in the heavenly courts. It was also a pity for him. A pity that he did not cultivate in the heavenly courts of that era. As time passed, Niu Dali also forgot about this matter. Now that he saw the galaxy, he recalled this matter again. Niu Dali had a premonition. Perhaps the small regret of the first era could be made up for in this era. His chaotic thoughts gradually calmed down. Niu Dali calmed himself down again and absorbed stellar energy to cultivate. There was a green bull lying on his side in the hall. As he breathed, powerful Taoist rhythms circulated. And as he breathed, there was also the flow of the nomological river, which set off Niu Dali. If one looked at it seriously, one could see that the cracked nomological laws were being repaired bit by bit. Every crack that was being repaired and extended could make Niu Dali's aura become denser. Splash! From time to time, waves would rise from the river and faint sounds could be heard. The entire hall also underwent some slight changes under the flow of the nomological river. Throughout the entire process, there wasn't much of a disturbance. Everything was imperceptibly changing in ways that ordinary people didn't know about. Chapter 781. While Niu Dali was concentrating on cultivating, Chu Kuangtu was also on the verge of a breakthrough. He had awakened earlier than the other party. In terms of foundation, Niu Dali was actually slightly inferior when they were at their peak states. Therefore, when it came to the recovery of strength, Chu Kuangtu was also slightly better. While Niu Dali was recovering his strength and looking for an opportunity to break through to the 7th level of the immortal realm, he was already breaking through to the 7th level of the immortal realm. In the hall, the long river of laws shook. The broken long river of laws was repairing bit by bit. Chu Kuangtu sat cross-legged in the middle, frantically absorbing the power of the stars for his own use. Whether it was the nomological Tao or the physical sanctification, there were some differences between the two systems when they became immortals, but the path they took was similar. The nomological Tao experts. From the 1st level of the immortal realm to the 9th level of the immortal realm, they would gradually control their own rules. When they broke through to the 9th level of the immortal realm, they would completely control the rules. Only after completely controlling the rules could they rely on their own strength to expand and strengthen the rules. In other words, breaking through to the perfected immortal realm was a stage. From the 1st level of the immortal realm to the 9th level of the immortal realm was another stage. As for the cultivators of the physical sanctification system, the first few realms were all repairing and perfecting the rules. When the rules were completely repaired, the realm would naturally break through to the 9th level of the immortal realm. When that time came, only then would they strengthen their own rules and reach the point where they could surpass the rules of heaven and earth. At this moment, Chu Kuangtu was repairing his own rules. In addition to his own comprehension, the repair of the rules also required a vast amount of energy. With his Tao fruit realm, he naturally did not lack comprehension of the rules. What he truly lacked was just the energy to repair the rules. Therefore, the biggest beneficiaries of the rich star power of the heavenly court were not the immortals of the heavenly court, nor were they the cultivators of the myriad races of the 4 major continents. Instead, it was the old antiques who had been reborn in the previous epochs. As for the purpose of Qin Shujian absorbing the stars, part of the reason was to improve the foundation of the myriad races. But the biggest reason was to let Chu Kuangtu and the others recover their strength. Now, only these two people had the chance to break through to the third level of the perfected immortal realm in a short period of time. As strong as Emperor Zhao, Shao Chifeng, and the others. Breaking through to the upper three true immortals was not something that could be done in a short time. This span of time. Not only was there a difference in talent, but there was also a problem of foundation. In Qin Shijian's opinion, it would take at least a few decades for the immortals and gods of the heavenly court to produce an expert of the upper three true immortal realms. There was also the possibility that someone was faster. However, no matter how fast he was, there was still a limit. Is Chu Kuangtu about to make a breakthrough? Before Qin Shijian left Zhou Tian's star map, he cast his gaze toward a certain palace in the heavenly court. A powerful aura was faintly discernible there. As the Emperor of Heaven, nothing in the heavenly court could escape his eyes and ears. Come to think of it, it's indeed time for Chu Kuangtu to make a breakthrough. Qin Shijian smiled. If Chu Kuangtu made a breakthrough, then the foundation of the heavenly court would become even stronger. When the time came to wage war with the three great clans, they would almost certainly win. After all, the strength of the demon emperors of the three clans had been weakened a little, while Qin Shijian's own strength was steadily increasing. The gap between the two had been widened a little. If Chu Kuangtu made a breakthrough now, this gap would once again be widened to an extent that could not be made up for. And there was no possibility that Chu Kuangtu would fail to make a breakthrough. Qin Shijian did not have any doubts. As a reincarnated Tao fruit, if he could fail to break through to the seventh true immortal realm, he might as well just kill himself, lest he embarrass them. In the heavenly court, most people did not notice Chu Kuangtu's breakthrough. But in the entire heavenly court, apart from Qin Shijian, there were very few people who could sense this. He's about to make a breakthrough! San Hua's cold voice sounded, and there was an inexplicable emotion in his tone. He was the sword master's divine weapon. In the past era, he had fought with Chu Kuangtu, the blade master, many times. Now things had changed. The sword master had fallen, and he had also submitted to the heavenly court, while the sword master was trying to break through to the seventh true immortal realm. For a moment, San Hua had mixed feelings in his heart. After taking a brief look at the sword, Qin Shijian turned and left. Chu Kuangtu's breakthrough was good news, proving that the heavenly court would have one more upper-level true immortal. Moreover, the other party was the reincarnation of a Tao fruit. Once he broke through to the third true immortal realm, he would not be comparable to a simple seventh true immortal. When the time came, not to say that he was comparable to a ninth true immortal, but dealing with an eighth true immortal would not be a problem. Even if he faced a ninth true immortal demon emperor, he would have the confidence to contend with him. Moreover, if Chu Kuangtu made a breakthrough, even if Niu Dali's foundation was weaker, the next few years would be enough for him to make a breakthrough. As a result, the heavenly court officially had three upper-level true immortals. When it was time to start a war with the three clans, it would be enough to press Hedo and the other demon emperors to the ground. It was precisely because of this. That was why Qin Shijian had the confidence to wipe out the three clans within 5 years. The other immortals and gods thought that the heavenly court needed to rely on the strength of the immortals and gods of the heavenly court to wage a war against the three clans. In fact, that was not the case. Chu Kuangtu, Niu Dali, and Qin Shijian himself were the main reasons to deal with the three clans. As long as those demon emperors were destroyed, there was no possibility of resisting with the remaining void demons. The further back they went, the more important the top combat power was. Although there were enough ordinary true immortals, as long as there were enough of them, they could also kill the true immortals of the upper three levels. But seriously speaking, if they wanted to kill an upper three true immortal, they would need to pay at least 100 times the number of true immortals. Otherwise, there was absolutely no possibility of suppressing an upper three true immortal. In other words, as long as there was one more upper three true immortal, it would be more useful than 100 more true immortals. Of course, there were definitely more than 100 true immortals at the Demon King level in the three clans. Qin Shujian was confident in dealing with a few demon emperors, but it did not mean that he was confident in dealing with all the true immortals of the three clans while dealing with the demon emperors. At this moment, the role of the heavenly court and the myriad races was played. Soldiers against soldiers, generals against generals. As long as he dealt with the demon emperor and cooperated with the strength of the heavenly court, it would not be a problem to destroy the remaining void demons. Back in the inner hall of the heavenly palace, Qin Shujian sank his consciousness into the investiture of the gods. He saw that in the vast space inside the god roll, there were a large number of star cores floating. His spiritual will swept across. All of the star cores were covered by it. In an instant, Qin Shujian's spiritual will withdrew from the god roll. I've already collected 157 star cores. I'm still a little more than 200 away from the minimum requirement of 365 star cores to refine Zhou Tian's star map. In another 2 years, I'll almost be able to collect all of them. As long as he collected all the star cores, he could start refining the real Zhou Tian's star map. At that time, the heavenly court would have one more powerful means. Chapter 782. Star energy poured in. The cultivators of the 4 major continents once again entered a period of explosive growth. Nine-headed mystic realm. How much longer until I break through to true immortal? The dog emperor sat on the throne. There was another seat below him, and the one sitting there was Zhu Chun. As a peak diviner expert, Zhu Chun was the strongest expert in the nine-headed dog clan after the dog emperor. As such, although he did not have the right to sit on the same level as the dog emperor, he still had a place in the palace. As for the other elders, they were all subconsciously inferior to him. Zhu Chun said, "Now that the star energy has become much denser, I should be able to attempt a breakthrough within a month. If you can, then so be it." The dog emperor nodded. If Zhu Chun could become an immortal, the nine-headed dog clan would have another true immortal expert. This way, the clan's foundation would also improve greatly, which was a great thing. When the star energy became denser, many powerful races had given birth to more than one true immortal. Strictly speaking, the nine-headed dog clan was a large clan. But until now, they only had the dog emperor as a true immortal. If they delayed any longer, they would be criticized. Fortunately, the dog emperor was one of the 5 emperors. In terms of strength and prestige, other true immortals could not compare to him. And so, that was why the other clans did not dare to cause trouble. On the side, Zhu Chun hesitated. He had something to say, but did not know how to say it. His emotional fluctuations could not be hidden from the dog emperor's senses. The dog emperor looked at him and said calmly, "If you have something to say, then say it boldly. Hesitation is not in your character. Not long ago, Emperor Eldar underwent the tribulation to become an immortal. You should know that I discovered that the Eastern War God and that Ling Huang's method of breaking through to true immortal was different from the usual system. I was thinking if I could break through to true immortal using that method, would I become even stronger?" Zhu Chun hesitated, but after he finished speaking, he no longer hesitated. Looking at the dog emperor, he paused for a moment before continuing. "If that method of becoming an immortal would make me even stronger, I would like to give it a try. But the lightning tribulation's power does not seem to be easy to pass. That's why I'm not too sure either, so I'm here to ask for your advice." A new system. Perhaps he would become even stronger after becoming an immortal. If there was a chance, Zhu Chun also wanted to give it a try. However, when Mu Yan underwent his tribulation to become an immortal, the might of the tribulation made him hesitate. If he wasn't mistaken, when that might descended, even a true immortal might die, let alone a celestial. Could it be that the unknown Ling Huang was also an expert who was strong enough to kill immortals? Regarding this, Zhu Chun also had doubts in his heart. Not just anyone could kill an immortal with a celestial. Even though the myriad races were at their peak, there were very few experts who were qualified to kill immortals. It was publicly acknowledged that he could slay immortals. Only the Emperor of Heaven and the Eastern God of War, Shao Qinfeng. Other than that, there was no third existence that could slay immortals. Hearing this, the Dog Emperor's expression was serious. Shao Qinfeng and Mu Yang's method of becoming immortal should be a completely new system. Ben Huang doesn't know much about this. But the Emperor of Heaven should know. If you are sure to do this, Ben Huang can ask the Emperor of Heaven on your behalf. But before you get the results, don't try rashly. The power of the Immortal Ascension Lightning Tribulation, even a first-level immortal would be at risk of dying. If you die during the tribulation, it won't be so easy for our clan to produce another true immortal in a short period of time. The Dog Emperor was also worried that Zhu Qun would go through the tribulation on impulse. Although the cultivation environment had improved greatly now, and the Nine-Headed Dog clan had many experts. But the problem was, the Nine-Headed Dog clan's foundation was still a little weak. Even with the power of the stars, the experts born now stopped at the Almighty Realm. It was not so easy to reach the limit of a celestial, or even the true immortal realm. Zhu Qun was really going to fail. In the next few years, the Nine-Headed Dog clan would not have a second true immortal. In the past, a gap of a few years was nothing at all. But it was different now. Everything had happened in a few short years, and it made the Dog Emperor feel an invisible sense of urgency. A few years seemed to pass in the blink of an eye. But if things went wrong, it was enough to change the entire Nine-Headed Dog clan. Zhu Qun understood the Dog Emperor's concerns. Don't worry, Emperor. I won't try it unless I'm 100% sure. After all, no matter how strong I am after the tribulation, it's all for nothing if I fail. If there's really no other way, it's better to break through according to the traditional system. How strong the future was, how good the prospects were. The premise of everything. It had to be that he could successfully break through. If it was the tribulation, everything would be illusory. On this point, Zhu Qun understood it very well. Seeing this, the Dog Emperor calmed down. Ben Huang will help you ask. With that, he left the Nine-Headed Secret Realm. He broke through the astral wind layer. When he entered the Heavenly Court, he saw a scene that seemed to be immersed in the galaxy. The Dog Emperor could not help but be stunned. Since the end of the last court meeting, he had returned to the Nine-Headed Dog clan's territory. He had not been to the Heavenly Court in this period of time. Therefore, the change in front of him was a little unexpected. Soon, the Dog Emperor came back to his senses. Then, he stepped on the Yellow Cloud Galaxy and walked toward the Heavenly Palace. After entering the Heavenly Palace, he cupped his hands toward the osmanthus tree in front of him and said politely, "This Emperor wishes to meet the Emperor of Heaven. Please inform him, Divine General." "So it's the Emperor of the Eastern Sun. Please wait for a moment. This one will go and inform him." The osmanthus tree swayed, and Mu Yang's incarnation appeared. After cupping his hands toward the Dog Emperor, he walked toward the inner hall of the Heavenly Palace. Seeing this, the Dog Emperor did not say anything. He just stood there and waited. The Divine General guarding the Heavenly Court. In terms of official position, he was definitely inferior to the Emperors of the Five Directions. Even the war gods of the Four Extremes were inferior. If one were to really compare, he was at most the same as Zhou Tian's constellation. Logically speaking, he did not need to give him too much face. The problem was that although Mu Yang was the Divine General guarding the Heavenly Palace, he was also Qin Shijian's confidant. As the Emperor of Heaven's confidant, even if he did not have a deity position, the Dog Emperor did not want to offend him. Therefore, the necessary etiquette was still necessary. Not long after, Mu Yang walked out of the inner hall. He cupped his hands toward the Dog Emperor and said with a smile, "The Emperor of Heaven is in the inner hall. Emperor of the Eastern Sun can enter by yourself." "Many thanks," the Dog Emperor said with a smile, then walked into the inner hall. Chapter 783. In the inner hall of the Heavenly Palace, stars swirled around. The surging power of the stars had already flowed into the heavenly palace. The Dog Emperor stepped in. When he saw Qin Shujian on the throne, he immediately bowed. "Greetings, Emperor of Heaven! Emperor of the Eastern Sun, you may dispense with the formalities." "Thank you, Emperor of Heaven." "Emperor, why did you suddenly come to my heavenly palace today?" Qin Shujian said lightly. He was also curious about the Dog Emperor's intentions. Under normal circumstances, the immortals of the heavenly court would not come here unless it was a court meeting. Qin Shujian didn't believe that the Dog Emperor didn't have anything important to say when he suddenly came over. In a short moment, many thoughts flashed through Qin Shujian's mind. But he suppressed these thoughts in the end. Below, the Dog Emperor cupped his hands and said, "I'm here to ask the Emperor of Heaven about something." "Speak." "May I ask if the Eastern God of War and the Guardian Divine General will have a thunder tribulation when they become immortals? Is there any essential difference from the traditional immortal ascension?" The Dog Emperor pondered for a moment, and asked the question in his heart. In fact, in the heavenly court, Shao Chifeng and Mu Yang were not the only ones who had a thunder tribulation when they became immortals. In his eyes there were also the mysterious Chu Kuangtu and Niu Dali. But for the latter, the Dog Emperor did not know much, so he did not ask casually. Besides, the existence of the latter was only known to the immortals of the heavenly court. Those who were not immortals of the heavenly court were not qualified to meet those two mysterious existences. It was not as eye-catching as Shao Chifeng and Mu Yang, who had directly undergone the thunder tribulation in the fallen immortal realm. Hearing the Dog Emperor's words, Qin Shujian finally understood the Dog Emperor's intentions. There were not many people who knew about the physical sanctification system, so it was normal for the Dog Emperor to have doubts. Immediately, he waved his hand, and a stream of light burst out and directly entered the Dog Emperor's mind. The whole process only took a moment. The Dog Emperor did not even have time to react before unfamiliar memories appeared in his mind. Instinctively, he closed his eyes and digested the unfamiliar memories in his mind. After a while, the Dog Emperor opened his eyes. His pupils were filled with shock. 3 great systems. Physical sanctification system. Even his firm Tao heart shuddered. Until now, the Dog Emperor finally understood that on the path of cultivation, there was more than just the traditional path. There were actually 3 paths that could be taken. If that's the case, the Eastern Pole War God and the Guardian Divine Generals are following the path of physical sanctification. He took a deep breath and instantly thought of Chu Kuangtu and Niu Dali. Qin Shujian said, "In the fleshly sanctification system, one has to face the immortal ascension tribulation when becoming an immortal. The power of this tribulation is extraordinary. One must have a strong enough physical body to have the hope of successfully transcending the tribulation. Otherwise, they would die." This method of immortal ascension was indeed stronger than the traditional method of immortal ascension, but it was not absolute. As for how to proceed, it's up to you. Hearing this, the Dog Emperor immediately bowed. "Thank you, Emperor of Heaven, for clearing my doubts. If there's nothing else, you may take your leave." "I'll take my leave." The Dog Emperor turned and left. On the Emperor's throne, Qin Shujian silently watched the Dog Emperor leave. His thoughts drifted to another place. The Dog Emperor's sudden visit today made him think of something. As early as Shao Qingfeng's tribulation and the subsequent powerhouse's tribulations, the physical sanctification system could not be hidden. Of course, Qin Shujian did not intend to hide this system. It was just that in the beginning, he did not expect to announce the physical sanctification system so soon. This was because in the current era, there was a huge gap between the two worlds. The Tao affirmation system was the right path. Whether it was the physical sanctification or the evolution of heaven and earth, they were all unorthodox. Comparing the 3, it was easier to become an immortal using the traditional system. As long as no one got in the way, the risk was minimal. As long as one did not deliberately seek death, there was no possibility of failing to become an immortal. However, Once the physical sanctification system was leaked, there would definitely be cultivators who wanted to use this system to break through their own limits. If that was the case, there would be a high degree of risk. Because it was different from the traditional system, the lightning tribulation of this era was much more powerful than the lightning tribulation of the Third Era. The lightning tribulation was more powerful, and the success rate was lower. But even the Emperor of the Eastern Sun came to ask about it. The physical sanctification system cannot be hidden. There might be other cultivators at the heavenly human limit who want to imitate the former and break through. Instead of waiting for someone to break through and die, it's better to release the news in advance. Anyway, if we can really cultivate a group of physical sanctification powerhouses, it will be beneficial for the heavenly court in the long run. Qin Shujian fell into deep thought. Thoughts were spinning in his mind. Great power returned to oneself. Naturally, it was a powerful existence. As for the evolution of heaven and earth system, he did not think too much about it. Because in Qin Shujian's opinion, it was not easy to follow the evolution of heaven and earth system. If he did not use the foundation of his previous life and combined it with his real power to deduce, he would not have been able to deduce the Guiyuan ancestral canon. In other words, unless he had the support of a corresponding cultivation method, it was impossible to evolve heaven and earth. After figuring out the key points, he woke up from his contemplation. Suddenly, Qin Shujian grabbed the investiture of the gods on the table and transmitted the corresponding information to the heavenly court's gods through the investiture of the gods. In the palace, Shi Yang interrupted his cultivation. He could not help but look stunned by the unfamiliar memories that appeared in his mind. But soon, he recovered from his shock. After carefully digesting the memories in his mind, Shi Yang's stunned expression turned into shock. Evolution of heaven and earth, physical sanctification, and Tao affirmation. He now understood that the system that he had originally followed was called Tao affirmation. It was also the weakest of the three major systems. As for the system that Xiao Chifeng had followed, it was ranked second, physical sanctification. Thinking of the Eastern god of war's tyrannical strength, Shi Yang's heart trembled. At first, he did not know why Xiao Chifeng's strength was so much stronger than ordinary true immortals. But now, it all made sense. Then, what about the Emperor of Heaven? When the Emperor of Heaven became an immortal, there were no rules and no thunder tribulations. Then, he should have followed the evolution of heaven and earth system. And only by following the strongest system can one be qualified to establish the heavenly court and rule over thousands of races. Instantly, Shi Yang's attention fell on Qin Shujian. Without a doubt, the system that he had followed was the strongest evolution of heaven and earth system. After all, many of the phenomena of immortal ascension did not appear on Qin Shujian. After thinking about it, this was the only reasonable explanation. Chapter 784. For a moment, all of Shi Yang's doubts about Qin Shujian were solved at this moment. However, he couldn't figure it out. Why did the other party have to release this news at this moment of all times? If the news of the three great systems spreads, I'm afraid there will be a huge change in the myriad races in the future. Shi Yang didn't need to guess to understand what kind of shock the three great systems would cause after the news spread. There were so many cultivators in the myriad races, so there would definitely be experts who wanted to give it a try. After all, it was a chance to become stronger. Very few people could turn a blind eye to it. After a long time, Shi Yang calmed his mind and entered the state of cultivation. No matter what system it was, it didn't have much to do with him. Because the three great systems, only when one was at the celestial being realm would one have the right to choose. Once one broke through to the true immortal realm, there was no turning back. Unless he crippled his own cultivation and started cultivating from scratch. But for Shi Yang, crippling his own cultivation and starting from scratch was equivalent to crippling his own limbs and courting death. Not to mention himself. None of the true immortals would make such a choice. Because once he crippled his own cultivation and started from scratch, no one could guarantee that he would succeed in transcending the tribulation. More importantly, most of the experts who could cultivate to the true immortal realm had experienced thousands of years of bitter cultivation. To rashly cripple one's own cultivation. Not to mention whether one could survive such a heavy injury. Just the impact of the reduction of one's lifespan could cause a true immortal to die on the spot. As long as one wasn't someone who took things too hard. No one would do that. So, Shi Yang didn't have any intention of walking down the other systems. Now, he had already reached the peak of the third level of immortal. If he took another step forward, he could officially break through to the fourth level of immortal and join the ranks of the middle three levels of immortal. Even in the ancient times, the middle three levels of immortal were all influential experts. Even now, the number of middle three levels of immortal in the heavenly court could be counted on one hand. The total number of devilish emperors from the three void fiend clans didn't exceed 10. So, if he could break through to the fourth level of immortal, then the status of the human race in the heavenly court would rise by a lot. Just as Shi Yang was calming his mind to cultivate. After the gods of the heavenly court received the news of the three great systems, they immediately spread it out. It didn't spread completely, but only transmitted to the races it belonged to. However, the experts of the same race would definitely have friends from other races. One after another. In less than a month, the news of the three major systems swept through the four major continents. At this point, everyone understood that becoming an immortal was not only possible through the traditional system, but also through a total of three major systems. Physical sanctification system. After Zhu Chen received the news, the doubts in his heart disappeared. However, the first thing that came to his mind was not the sanctification of the physical body, but the evolution of heaven and earth system. This was because according to the news that the heavenly court had spread, this system was the most powerful of the three major systems. However, if there were still traces of physical sanctification, then there was really no news at all about heaven and earth evolution. In Zhu Chen's mind, the Emperor of Heaven should have followed this system. But the problem was, when the other party became an immortal, there was no news at all. Right now, no one knew exactly what they had to do to reach the stage of evolving the world. This question. He could only make guesses in his heart, but there was no way for him to ask in person. This was because becoming an immortal was a secret to everyone. If he really wanted to ask, Zhu Chen believed that Qin Shujian would not leak too much information. When the time came, not only would he not get what he wanted, but he might also anger the other party. Thinking of this, he immediately gave up on exploring the secret of evolving the world. In that case, if I follow the physical sanctification system, it should be the most suitable. When Zhu Chen thought of this, a bright light burst out from his eyes. The physical sanctification system. The main problem was the physical body. Only with a strong enough physical body would there be a possibility of passing the immortal ascension tribulation. The nine-headed dog clan was born with a strong physical body. Although their physical body was not ranked first among the 10,000 clans, it was still one of the few. This way, the chances of transcending the tribulation were still very high. And from the news that the heavenly court had spread, the power of the immortal ascension tribulation depended on the cultivator to a certain extent. So, in Zhu Chen's opinion, the terrifying power of Mu Yang's tribulation was most likely because of the other party's tyrannical foundation. If his foundation was not as good as the other parties, the power of the tribulation would not be so strong. Of course, this was not so strong, but it was only relatively speaking. If one really compared it, there was not much difference. The strong were strong, the weak were weak. The difficulty of transcending the tribulation was obvious. It was not so easy to succeed. The prerequisite for the physical sanctification is to have a strong enough physical body. There's no need for me to rush to break through now. It's better to polish it. Zhu Chen already had an idea in his heart. If he had already become an immortal, then forget it. But since he had not become an immortal, he definitely did not want to become an immortal with the system that was ranked last among the three major systems. No matter what, he had to try and see if he could walk the physical sanctification system. Perhaps the differences between the systems were not so obvious now, but when there were more experts with physical sanctification in the future, the differences between the systems would appear. When that time came, the experts who used the rules to become immortals would be in an awkward situation. After making up his mind, Zhu Qin suppressed the urge to break through to the true immortal realm. The current him had not truly reached his limit. The original limit was only relative to the rules. Now that he wanted to walk the physical sanctification system, the original limit was no longer the limit. What Zhu Qin had to do now was to continue tempering his body and truly temper it to a point where it could not advance any further. Only then could he truly break through and try to transcend the immortal ascension lightning tribulation. While Zhu Qin was focused on cultivating, many experts who had reached the limit of the celestial being realm of the myriad races had stopped thinking of breaking through. Instead, they began to settle down and strengthen their foundation. Their goal. It was the same as Zhu Qin. They did not want to take the conventional path of breaking through. Instead, they wanted to take the path of physical sanctification. Only then, only after breaking through could they be strong enough. Before Xiao Chengfeng broke through, he could already suppress ordinary true immortals. After breaking through, his strength was even more terrifying. Mu Yang's words, however, did not reveal anything. But no matter what, the prospect of sanctifying one's physical body was already there, and many confident experts wanted to give it a try. However, not all experts did so. Some of the experts still broke through to the true immortal realm using the traditional system. For them, it did not matter if their foundation was strong or weak, as long as they could break through. Chapter 785. After the spread of the three systems. In the following time, the number of experts who broke through to the true immortal realm decreased at a visible rate. Even though the star power was several times richer than usual, the birth of true immortals could not be compared to the past. Obviously. The reason for this was that most of the experts were waiting for the opportunity to transcend the tribulation. I heard that you've completely spread the body sanctification system? In the inner hall of the heavenly palace, Chu Kuangtu had a faint smile on his face. The person sitting opposite him was Qin Shujian. There were no extra immortals in the main hall, which was supposed to be a court meeting. There was only a stone table and 2 stone stools. On the stone table, there was spiritual tea brewing. Rich spiritual energy was emitted from the teacup, and the mist could be vaguely seen condensing into a giant tree. That was the form of the current Linghuang. The spiritual tea brewed by Qin Shujian was not ordinary, but the spiritual flowers condensed on the osmanthus tree after Mu Yang became an immortal. After he became an immortal, the spiritual flowers condensed on the tree had already surpassed the limit of the 9th level. If there was a classification, it had already reached the sage stage. In the outside world, a cup of such spiritual tea was enough for a true martial realm cultivator to directly break through to the spirit god realm, or even the god martial realm. But for Qin Shujian and Chu Kuangtu, it only tasted better and had no other effect. Hearing what Chu Kuangtu said, Qin Shujian picked up the spiritual tea and shook his head with a faint smile. There was Xiao Chengfeng, Mu Yang, and you and the green ox transcending the tribulation. The news of the body sanctification can't be kept a secret for long. Even if I don't tell anyone, someone will try. Instead of letting them try to figure it out and then die under the thunder tribulation, it's better to announce it directly. Even if they really die during the tribulation in the future, they can't blame anyone. Whether to announce it or not, there would be people trying to break through in other ways. In that case. Thus, Qin Shujian decided to be more straightforward and announce the information to the public. Chu Kuangtu said, "There's no harm in announcing it. What I didn't expect was that you would divide the system of breaking through to the true immortal realm into 3. Furthermore, in your eyes, the physical sanctification system isn't the strongest. If that's the case, is the heaven and earth derivation system that you're following really the strongest?" Speaking of the word strongest, Chu Kuangtu said meaningfully. No matter the time, the word strongest was always controversial. There was no first place in literature. There was no second place in martial arts. Over the course of several eras, many experts had fallen just to compete for the title of the strongest. If this was the second era, if someone dared to say that their system was the strongest, it was very likely that they wouldn't be able to live past 3 days. Even now. Even Chu Kuangtu was tempted to make a move. He really wanted to see if what Qin Shujian said about being the strongest was true. However, Chu Kuangtu quickly dismissed the idea. His current realm was not on the same level as the other party. If they really fought, he would be asking for trouble. She sat opposite him. Qin Shujian replied calmly, "The system I'm following is naturally the strongest. Maybe it won't be the strongest in the future, but as long as I'm here, it will be the strongest. If you don't believe me, why don't you give it a try? When I break through to the 9th level of Immortal, I'll give it a try." Chu Kuangtu chuckled and didn't answer this question. He wasn't afraid of anyone in the same realm. But if there was a gap of a few small realms, Chu Kuangtu wasn't sure that he could compete with Qin Shujian. If they really fought, that would be asking for trouble. Seeing that Chu Kuangtu didn't answer, Qin Shujian changed the topic and said with a smile, "Speaking of which, now that you've broken through to the 7th level of Immortal, what are your chances of winning against the Devil Emperor?" In his eyes, Chu Kuangtu's realm was completely exposed. If the other party hadn't broken through to the 7th level of Immortal, he wouldn't have come out to chat with him now. Which demon emperor is the Qin Emperor referring to? Yizhua. Qin Shujian casually said, the weakest Devil Emperor. Hearing that, Chu Kuangtu sneered proudly. It's easy to fight a wounded 8th level Immortal Demon Emperor with bare hands. If I use the Hibernation Awakening, killing him will be a piece of cake. As soon as he finished speaking, the long saber on his back buzzed softly. The Sword Master had a Khanate Supreme Treasure to protect himself. The Sword Master also had a top divine weapon. Hibernation Awakening. Even his divine weapon in the second era was no weaker than Sanhua in terms of power. With such a supreme treasure, any 7th level immortal was qualified to kill an 8th level immortal. Not to mention, Chu Kuangtu was the reincarnation of a Dao fruit, different from an ordinary 7th level immortal. There was no problem for him to deal with the 8th level immortal Yizhua. Good. Qin Shujian had a smile on his face. He was also very satisfied with Chu Kuangtu's confidence. After a while, the Heavenly Court will officially take action against the 3 major clans. At that time, I hope the Sword Master can really kill Yizhua as easily as you said today. I've never spoken empty words. Chu Kuangtu's expression didn't change. He picked up the teacup in front of him and said lightly, Your Majesty, are you not taking action now because you're waiting for that bull? Chu Kuangtu's tone was a little unfriendly. Although they were now on the same side, he still had a lot of dissatisfaction with Niu Dali. The hatred of the second era. If there was a chance in the future, Chu Kuangtu would definitely take revenge. In fact, he was now thinking about whether he should take the initiative to suppress Niu Dali before he broke through to the 7th level immortal realm. However, Chu Kuangtu looked at Qin Shujian on the side, but he still didn't put this idea into action. This Qin Emperor, he wouldn't sit and watch them fight to the death. If he really attacked Niu Dali by force, he might be the one suppressed. He glanced at Chu Kuangtu. Qin Shujian shook his head. The feud between you and the Green Bull can be slowly settled after the tribulation. No one will care about you. But now that the tribulation is coming, don't cause any trouble. If you really cause trouble, I can't just stand by and watch. The Sword Master should understand this. The overall situation is more important. I still know this. Your Majesty, you don't have to say it. Chu Kuangtu retorted angrily. He knew it. Qin Shujian definitely wouldn't let him take action. Seeing this, Qin Shujian laughed. Sword Master, please don't take offense. It's just that it's better to talk about some things openly. Otherwise, it won't be good for you and me. Now that you've broken through to the 7th level immortal realm, When the Green Bull breaks through, the Heavenly Court will have full confidence to attack the three major clans. If you don't have absolute confidence to kill those demon emperors, it's meaningless even if you wipe out the other void demons. I believe you know very well how terrifying a demon emperor without any restrictions is. If they really wiped out all the void demons and then Beto and the other demon emperors escaped, the consequences would be very serious. Hearing this, Chu Kuang-tu also nodded as if it was a matter of fact. P.S. I recommend a friend's new book. My dad seems a little strong. Chapter 786. The Three True Immortals Without Any Restrictions. Even the current Heavenly Court did not have the confidence to deal with them. There was a good saying. There were thieves for 1,000 days, but there were no thieves for 1,000 days. If it really came to that point, the Heavenly Court might have to abandon the extraterritorial battlefield and withdraw all forces back to the great, wide world. In that case, what was the point of destroying the void demons? When it was time for the demonic abyss to descend, those few devil emperors might even cause a lot of trouble. Therefore, it was fine if he didn't make a move. Once he made a move, he had to catch all the demon emperors in one fell swoop and not let them have a chance to escape. Let's wait a little longer. Green Bull's innate wisdom will awaken a little later, but it won't take too long to break through to the 7th immortal level. Then let's wait a little longer. Chu Kuang-tu nodded. It was not up to him to decide when to attack the three great clans. In the current era, Qin Shujian was the ruler of the Heavenly Court, and he was also the strongest among all the reincarnated people. Chu Kuang-tu even felt that he was not far from recovering the cultivation of his previous life. Therefore, for many things, he took Qin Shujian's advice. Others were not that important. The two chatted for a short while before Chu Kuang-tu got up and left. He came this time because he had broken through to the next realm and wanted to take a breather. In fact, the 7th immortal level was just the beginning for Chu Kuang-tu. He had to reach the 8th and 9th immortal level in a short time. As for whether he could recover the cultivation of the second era, he was not 100% sure. At the Dao fruit level, it was not so easy to reach. There were countless geniuses in an era, but only a few could break through to the Dao fruit level in the end. That realm. Even if a Dao fruit reincarnated and recultivated, there was not much confidence that he could cultivate back. Therefore, unless it was a last resort, there would be no Dao fruit reincarnated and recultivated. Once reincarnated and recultivated, there was no way out. After Chu Kuang-tu left, the stone stool he was sitting on also dissipated like smoke. Qin Shujian's body did not move. He picked up the teacup and tasted the spirit tea in it. How can it be so easy to break through to the Dao fruit level? He finished the spirit tea. There was a look of regret on his face. As the first expert to break through to the 9th heaven immortal realm after recultivating, Qin Shujian was also the first to face the threshold of Dao fruit. However, he was already standing above the 9th heaven immortal, yet he had no way of prying into the fruits of Dao. Even though he had guessed that his inner world would break through to the greater 1,000 worlds, he would be able to break through to the Dao fruit level. However, the problem was that Qin Shujian had no clue how to break through the great wide world. The only thing he could do was to continuously strengthen his own foundation. Furthermore, in the depths of his heart, there was also a trace of worry. That is, if his inner world were to be upgraded to a great 1,000 world, would it be possible for him to break through to the Dao fruit realm? What if he still couldn't break through to Dao fruit after ascending to the great Kiliacosm? For Qin Shujian, that would be a huge blow. He thought of this possibility. Qin Shujian's expression changed drastically. The great 1,000 realms should be the key to breaking through the Dao fruit. My calculations can't be wrong. It's better not to think too much about it. He thought too much. There wouldn't be any results. Instead, it would only mess up his Dao heart. Immediately after, Qin Shujian calmed his mind. Then, with a thought, he saw his divine consciousness split. 3 people whose specific faces couldn't be seen clearly appeared in the inner hall of the heavenly palace. The next moment, the mist on their faces dissipated, revealing Qin Shujian's appearance. They look exactly the same. That won't do! Looking at the appearance of the 3 people, Qin Shujian shook his head and simply waved his hand. The appearance of the 3 people suddenly changed into unfamiliar faces. Seeing this, he nodded with satisfaction. You guys go. Find suitable people to accept the task among the players of the Desolate Great World, the 9 Moons Great World, and the Red Jade Great World, and then bring them here. Qin Shujian said lightly. Hearing this, the 3 people didn't speak. They simply cupped their hands and then disappeared from the inner hall of the heavenly palace. I hope I can find suitable people soon. Otherwise, the weakening of the Desolate Great World is not enough. Qin Shujian looked at the empty hall and thought to himself. During this period of time, through the connection of the incarnation of the Emperor of Heaven, he could basically know what had happened in the Desolate Great World. With the guidance of his own power incarnation, coupled with Fu Moyan's strength, which was not weak. In the Desolate Great World, a world that had just recovered its spirit chi not many years ago, it was enough to be unparalleled in the world. As long as there were no old antiques in that world. Or Fu Moyan was courting death and deliberately revealed his whereabouts, which was detected by the way of heaven. Qin Shujian was sure. The son of destiny in the Desolate Great World, 1 would die if 1 came, and 2 would die if 2 came. Among other things, just in the past year or so, it had been a long time. The number of sons of Providence that Fu Moyan had killed numbered in the dozens. This information, Qin Shujian got it through the connection of the incarnation of the Emperor of Heaven. It was imaginable. In terms of being a spy, Fu Moyan had done his best. This person is useful. If there is a chance, I can pass on the rest of the Purple Heaven Divine Thunder scripture to him. In addition to the cultivation method, I can also give him some other means. If you can't give up the child, you can't trap the wolf. This kind of trader, what they value the most is benefits. If there are not enough benefits, who knows what they will do? On the contrary, as long as there are enough benefits, sometimes traders are more reliable than others. Qin Shujian's mind turned. With his vast and boundless memory, there were simply too many supreme cultivation techniques and incantations recorded in it. Any one of them would be a top-notch utmost treasure for anyone else. With this, it was not difficult to drive Fu Moyan. However, Qin Shujian did not think of giving Fu Moyan some benefits now. It was not a good thing to give benefits frequently. He could not give. But he could not give too often. There was a need to grasp a degree. With the incarnation of the Emperor of Heaven, which was connected to himself, Qin Shujian believed that the other party would handle this matter well. Forget it, let's go to the mother stream of law again. Putting down the teacup, Qin Shujian stood up from the stone bench. With a wave of his hand, he saw the stone bench, stone table, and everything else dissipating like smoke. He took a step forward, and the void in front of him collapsed. The next second, Qin Shujian appeared in the mother stream of law. He had already arranged for people to do what needed to be done. What he could do now was to continue to comprehend the rules and strengthen the foundation of his inner world. 3 months. When Qin Shujian entered the mother stream of law for the 3rd time. In the sky above the 4 continents, the mother stream of law trembled. A powerhouse stepped on the long river of law and then opened up the battlefield of law. Under the watchful eyes of everyone, the law monument was broken. Chapter 787. An expert had become an immortal. For the current myriad races, this was not a strange thing. However, this time, the immortal ascension attracted the attention of many experts. This was because the expert who became an immortal this time did not use the traditional method to prove the Tao, but used the method of the physical body to transcend the tribulation. The rule battlefield was opened. Jin Linghuang took a step forward. With every step he took, his body was undergoing a violent transformation. When he reached the front of the rule monument, He had already broken through from the limit of the celestial being to the half-immortal realm. From the half-immortal realm, he was only one step away from becoming a true immortal. The Rule Monument! Looking at the monument in front of him, Jin Ling Huang's eyes changed. The 5 elements Eldar. Among them, the Earth Eldar and the Fire Eldar were gone. Only the Metal, Wood, and Water Eldar remained. Among the 3 Eldar, the Wood Eldar and Water Eldar Emperors had already become immortals. Only the Gold Eldar had yet to become a true immortal. In the past, the leader of the 3 Eldar Emperors had fallen to the bottom. Although Jin Ling Huang did not say anything on the surface, he was very anxious in his heart. The opportunity to become an immortal is right in front of me. As long as I leave my mark on the Rule Monument, it will be enough. Jin Ling Huang's expression was a little hesitant. The Rule battlefield was opened. He walked in front of the Rule Monument. It could be said that becoming an immortal was just a step away. Leaving his name on the Rule Monument would allow him to become an immortal directly. However, Jin Ling Huang hesitated. He also hesitated. If he became an immortal using the traditional system, even if he became an immortal, the Gold Eldar would not be able to regain his position as the leader of the 3 Eldar Emperors. This was because Wood Ling Huang and Water Ling Huang had both become immortals before him. Speaking of foundation, there was a certain gap between him and the two. Unless, after becoming an immortal, his strength could be stronger than the other 2 emperors. Then, he could make the Gold Eldar prosper again. After a long time, Jin Ling Huang suddenly raised his hand and the gung metal sword she blasted out, landing directly on the Rule steel. He was only one step away from becoming a true immortal. The true essence in his body. It had already transformed into immortal energy. The power of the gung metal sword chi was also much stronger than before. He casually released a stream of sword chi. It was enough to make the Law Monument tremble. Terrifying power erupted, causing the river to surge. Boom! Dozens of gung metal sword chis bombarded, and the intact Rule Monument finally cracked. Then, it crumbled at a speed visible to the naked eye. The Rule steel shattered. The Law battlefield could no longer be maintained. Immediately, the battlefield of laws crumbled, and the long river of laws seemed to have been cut off from the middle, suddenly breaking into several pieces. Jin Ling Huang instantly grabbed a fragment of the broken law and fused it into his body. Rule interception. Heaven and earth were enraged. The monstrous thunder calamity was formed, and the dark sky seemed as though it was going to destroy everything. Immortal Ascension Tribulation! Jin Ling Huang raised his head and looked at the lightning tribulation gathering in the sky. His face was very serious. Immortal Ascension Tribulation. It was an unavoidable tribulation in the process of immortal ascension with the physical sanctification system. Compared to the nomological Tao validation system, the physical sanctification system had a certain possibility of failure. However, if he wanted to become stronger, he had to pay a corresponding price. Let's see if Ben Huang can stop Ben Huang from becoming an immortal. Jin Ling Huang's aura was vast and vigorous, and the surrounding void was silently destroyed. After reaching the end of the law and being washed by the law, his strength had already undergone a transformation. His body had transformed into an immortal body. His true essence had also transformed into immortal energy. Apart from the difference in the law, Jin Ling Huang's current strength was not weaker than a level 1 immortal. It was also because of this. He had enough confidence in facing the immortal ascension tribulation. The thunder calamity condensed. The experts of the myriad races all flew over and stopped when they were thousands of miles away. They silently looked at Jin Ling Huang, who was about to transcend the tribulation. Because if they got any closer, that was the range of the lightning tribulation. Any expert who was not transcending the tribulation rashly entering the range of the lightning tribulation could cause the lightning tribulation to go berserk. When that time came, the lightning tribulation that descended from heaven and earth was not as simple as the immortal ascension tribulation. Therefore, even perfected immortals did not dare to approach other experts when they were transcending the tribulation. If one was not good, There was a possibility of dying. Jin Ling Huang is about to transcend the tribulation. I wonder if he will succeed. Zhu Chen's expression was solemn. He was also a little nervous as he watched Jin Ling Huang transcend the tribulation. Ever since the Heavenly Court announced the three major systems, Jin Ling Huang was the first expert to transcend the tribulation to become an immortal using the physical sanctification method. Xiao Chifeng and Mu Yang in the past were not included. If Jin Ling Huang could successfully transcend the tribulation, then a new chapter would definitely be opened for the myriad races. But if the other party failed the tribulation, many experts who planned to walk the physical sanctification system would hesitate. For this, Zhu Qing directly came out of seclusion to watch Jin Ling Huang transcend the tribulation with his own eyes. Beside him, it was another elder of the nine-headed dog clan, Kong Yi. If Jin Ling Huang fails the tribulation, do you still want to break through using the physical sanctification method? When Kong Yi spoke, his gaze did not move away from Jin Ling Huang. At this moment, the lightning tribulation was completed. A thick bolt of lightning descended with a loud bang, and wherever it passed, the void was destroyed. That was a huge momentum. It was enough to make one's expression change. Zhu Chen said, Jin Ling Huang's failure doesn't mean that I will fail too. Moreover, as the emperor of a clan, Jin Ling Huang's foundation is very deep. Although the immortal ascension tribulation is difficult, he might not fail. It's too early to come to a conclusion. Speaking of which, you have also reached the 10th level of the Heaven Being realm. After a few more years of consolidation, you can also try to break through to the true immortal realm. I'm afraid there's no way in a few years. Kong Yi shook his head. His foundation was not as good as Zhu Chen's. Although the cultivation environment had improved a lot, the leap from the Heaven Being to the true immortal realm was not something that could be achieved with sufficient resources. The key to breaking through to the true immortal realm. It was not in terms of resources, but in terms of rules. Although there were countless rules in the world, there were only so many rules that were easy to follow. Now that the true immortal realm had stepped forward, the rules that could be followed had mostly been followed by the predecessors. The remaining rules, they were either extremely difficult to comprehend or had other restrictions. It was not that easy to break through to the true immortal realm. Therefore, in the nine-headed dog clan, the one with the most hope of breaking through to the true immortal realm was Zhu Qin, and the second was Kong Yi. But even Kong Yi, he was not confident that he could become an immortal in a few years. It would be considered good if he could break through in the next 20 to 30 years. While the two of them were talking, Jin Ling Huang had officially begun to transcend the tribulation. Facing the mighty lightning tribulation, the Emperor of the Golden Eldar was not afraid. With a raise of his hand, a Gengjin sword chi erupted and slashed at the lightning. The sword chi streaked across. The void shattered and melted. In the end, the two collided fiercely, and destructive fluctuations spread out, causing a loud bang. Chapter 788. So powerful! After destroying the lightning with one sword strike, Jin Ling Huang's heart sank. The power of the lightning tribulation. It was much stronger than he had expected. The gung metal sword chi that he had slashed out just now seemed ordinary, but it had already occupied most of his strength. But even so, it was only able to offset that lightning. But one thing to know was, that lightning was only the first lightning tribulation of the immortal ascension tribulation. There were more lightning bolts waiting for him. Moreover, the lightning tribulation was stronger than the previous one. If it really came to the end, then it would be hard to say. He thought of a possibility. Jin Ling Huang immediately became nervous. At this moment, the lightning tribulation was still bombarding down. Jin Ling Huang used his own strength to mobilize the gold spirit power between heaven and earth. With a wave of his hand, thousands of gung metal sword chi erupted and swept towards the lightning. The lightning bombarded. It destroyed most of the gung metal sword chi. For a moment, vast power swept across. A day had passed. Not only did the power of the lightning not lessen, it became even more intense. That terrifying power caused the other experts' hearts to tremble. Until now, some celestial experts who had not come out of seclusion could not concentrate on cultivating and had to come out to observe. Even some true immortals. They all looked at Jin Ling Huang. This tribulation could be said to have involved the attention of all races. 50%, 50%. Whether or not he can successfully transcend the tribulation is another matter. Seeing this, the incarnation of the Emperor of Heaven, who was walking in the four continents, shook his head and gave an evaluation that was not considered an evaluation. Then, he retracted his gaze and walked into the distance. 3 incarnations of the Emperor of Heaven. 2 went to the extraterritorial battlefield, and 1 stayed in the four continents. Their goal was to find suitable candidates among the many players and see if there was a way to use them as chess pieces and place them in the other 3-player worlds. Now that the extraterritorial battlefield had opened, 80% of the players were there. Therefore, the 2 incarnations of the Emperor of Heaven went straight to the extraterritorial battlefield. However, there were also some players who were not strong enough or did not want to take risks and came back to rest. They stayed in the four continents. As such, there was also the last incarnation of the Emperor of Heaven who was here to pick up scraps. It's easy to find a 2-legged player, but it's not that easy to find a qualified trader. Emperor of Heaven's avatar sighed. Although he was just a wisp of Qin Shijian's power incarnation, he was still very powerful. But in terms of strength, he was not much weaker than a true immortal. It would be a piece of cake for him to travel across the four continents. Within a few days, Emperor of Heaven's clone had encountered many players, but none of them were qualified. World Trader. Not everyone could do it. Strength was secondary, but luck and aptitude in all aspects couldn't be too bad. Other than that, the most important thing was that there had to be no problem with their brains. When all the requirements were put together, the difficulty naturally increased. However, the incarnation of the Emperor of Heaven did not expect to complete the task assigned by Qin Shijian in just a few days. In his opinion, it was impossible for the other 2 incarnations to find a suitable candidate in the foreign battlefield so quickly. Therefore, he was not too anxious. On the other side, Jin Ling Huang's tribulation had also reached a critical juncture. In the beginning, he could still rely on his own strength to resist the power of the lightning tribulation. But later on, Jin Ling Huang's attack could no longer resist the lightning tribulation. The only thing that could truly resist the lightning tribulation was his physical body. Boom! The lightning swooped down like a world-destroying dragon. Jin Ling Huang's expression was solemn. He condensed an endless amount of Gung Jin power between his hands, and in the next moment, it exploded with a loud bang. The incomparably sharp Gung Jin sword chi directly slashed on the lightning. Immediately after, the sword chi collapsed. The lightning was simply weakened a little, and then it bombarded Jin Ling Huang's body. In an instant, Jin Ling Huang's body exploded and charred black. Before the blood completely flowed out, it was evaporated by the power of the lightning. It made his originally tyrannical aura. It was also a lot more dispirited. Without waiting for Jin Ling Huang's injury to recover, the lightning tribulation above once again bombarded down. That destructive power. Finally, it made his expression change. Without any hesitation, Jin Ling Huang directly took out a large hall and faced the lightning. That was Jin Eldar's hall. Generations of Jin Ling Huang sat in the hall and was affected by the aura of countless experts. Although it was not a divine weapon, it was better than an ordinary divine weapon. At this moment, his body that had already transformed into an immortal body, under the destructive effect of the lightning, there was no way to recover in a second. So, Jin Ling Huang had no choice but to take out all of Jin Eldar's assets. The hall covered the sky as if it was suppressing heaven and earth. When the thunderbolt struck down, endless golden light burst forth from the palace. Soon after, the phantoms of various experts appeared. Those shadows. They were all the imprints left by the generations of Jin Ling Huang. But these shadows had existed for countless years, and the imprints that existed on the hall did not have much power to speak of. In front of the lightning, they burst like bubbles. In the end, the lightning bombarded the hall. Boom! The terrifying power erupted, causing the entire hall to tremble violently, and then countless cracks spread all over, as if it would collapse at any time. But even so, Jin Ling Huang did not intend to take back the hall, but took advantage of the gap when the lightning was blocked, to seize the time to recover his injuries. Soon, the second lightning struck down. The hall, which was already on the verge of collapse, turned into countless fragments and scattered. The remaining lightning power bombarded down and landed on Jin Ling Huang's body. At this moment, Jin Ling Huang's injuries had recovered a lot, and when the lightning struck again, although his skin was still torn, it was much better than before. And the lightning power that fell on his body was also slowly transforming his body. He could clearly feel his physical strength was becoming stronger little by little. Such a change. Jin Ling Huang's face suddenly changed. The energy of the lightning can transform the physical body. He only knew about this matter now. In the beginning, all the lightning that fell down was blocked by his Gung Jin sword chi. The later lightning was too powerful, and he could not detect any changes in his body at all. Only at this moment, because of the obstruction of the hall, after the power of the lightning was weakened, Jin Ling Huang could clearly feel the changes brought about by the lightning tempering his body. Suddenly, he realized what was going on. Jin Ling Huang found that his original way of transcending the tribulation seemed to be wrong. He should not forcibly launch an attack when the power of the lightning tribulation was not strong enough to stop it from descending. Instead, he should let the lightning tribulation fall and temper his body. However, it was too late to regret. Another powerful bolt of lightning struck down. Chapter 789. The lightning tribulation fell one after another. The terrifying lightning gathered together and turned into a vast sea of lightning. Thousands of miles of land. It was all covered by the sea of lightning. The onlookers couldn't see through the sea of lightning with their eyes. They could only sense that Jin Ling Huang's aura was still there. After an unknown amount of time, the dark tribulation clouds in the sky dissipated bit by bit. The sea of lightning that was growing below also gradually died out. Everyone looked at each other in dismay. Did he succeed? Or did he fail? The tribulation clouds hadn't completely dispersed, and the sea of lightning hadn't completely disappeared. The people who were watching the tribulation couldn't see the scene too clearly. Just as everyone was guessing. All of a sudden, an extremely powerful force rose and forcibly extinguished the remaining sea of lightning. Then, golden flowers floated in the sky. Golden lotuses also appeared on the ground. A person rose into the air, his aura vast and mighty, suppressing heaven and earth. Jin Eldar's territory. All the clansmen were ecstatic at this moment. Success! My emperor has succeeded in transcending the tribulation. God bless our Jin Eldar! Our clan finally has a true immortal! From the elders to the ordinary clansmen, the Jin Eldar were all excited. In this era, a clan without a true immortal couldn't be considered a powerful clan at all. Now that Jin Ling Huang had succeeded in transcending the tribulation, the Jin Eldar finally had a true immortal. Moreover, and it wasn't an ordinary true immortal. The three major systems of breaking through to true immortal were no longer a secret. Jin Ling Huang became an immortal through the physical sanctification system. His strength was completely different from a true immortal who had proven his Tao. Seeing this scene, Mu Ling Huang and Shui Ling Huang also had complicated expressions. I didn't expect him to make the right bet. It seems that the Jin Eldar is going to rise again. Shui Ling Huang sighed. Although he broke through a few years earlier than Jin Ling Huang. However, the aura emitted by the other party had already made Shui Ling Huang's heart palpitate a little. In other words, if they really fought, he might not be a match for Jin Ling Huang. Although he was very unwilling to admit it. However, Shui Ling Huang also understood that a true immortal who had attained the Tao through the laws was indeed no match for a true immortal who had attained the physical sanctification realm. However, the danger of transcending the tribulation was obvious. Even when he was observing, he almost suspected that Jin Ling Huang would fail and die. Such a method. It was equivalent to gambling with his life. Jin Ling Huang has broken through. What are you going to do? Shui Ling Huang thought to himself as he looked at Eldar Wood's territory. The territories of the two races were separated by billions of miles. But when Shui Ling Huang looked over, he also happened to meet Mu Ling Huang's gaze. The two of them stared at each other for a few seconds. Then, both sides slowly retracted their gazes. Hee hee. Mu Ling Huang suddenly shook his head and chuckled. He also understood Shui Ling Huang's nervousness. In the past, Jin Ling Huang's breakthrough would have made him feel a lot of pressure. But it was different now. After fighting with Qin Shujian, Mu Ling Huang had gained a lot. In addition, during this period of time, he had been constantly digesting and had already turned all those gains into his own use. When it came to strength, Mu Ling Huang was no longer the Mu Ling Huang of the past. Although he had not broken through, he believed that his strength was definitely not weaker than Jin Ling Huang's. The physical sanctification realm system was powerful. But it did not mean that everyone was Xiao Chengfeng, nor did it mean that every expert who walked the physical sanctification realm system was truly unparalleled in battle strength. The current Mu Ling Huang had great confidence. The breakthrough was successful. Jin Ling Huang's body once again ushered in a transformation and sublimation. The injuries that were originally caused by transcending the tribulation had also recovered a lot. He stood in the air and after looking around at the experts who were hiding in the surroundings, he directly stepped into the air and left. From beginning to end, no one spoke of their own accord. Success! After Jin Ling Huang had completely left, Zhu Chen slowly spat out a few words from his mouth. As he spoke, there was also a glimmer in his eyes. Success! Jin Ling Huang had succeeded in transcending the tribulation. Since the Heavenly Court announced the three major systems, there was finally a first expert who had succeeded in transcending the tribulation. Regarding this, Zhu Chen was also a little excited. Because if an expert succeeded, it proved that this path was completely possible. Moreover, this time, Jin Ling Huang's tribulation was completely close to him, and he had also gained a lot. Zhu Chen was originally only one step away from becoming a true immortal. Now that he had additional gains, he was even at the point where he could break through at any time. However, considering that his accumulation was not enough, if he broke through on his own accord, he was not confident that he would succeed in transcending the tribulation. Only then did Zhu Chen suppress the urge to break through. It's too early. Now is not the time to rush to break through. Let's accumulate a little more, wait until there is no more room to advance, then break through in one go. That is the safest way. Zhu Chen thought to himself. Becoming an immortal was not something that could be done carelessly. If one could not transcend the tribulation, there would only be death. If he succeeded, he would live. If he failed, he would die. If he failed, thousands of years of cultivation would be destroyed. He did not dare to treat his thousands of years of hard work as a joke, so he waited for a while. However, compared to before, after witnessing Jin Ling Huang's tribulation with his own eyes, Zhu Chen's confidence in transcending the tribulation in the future had increased by 20%. Don't underestimate the 20% increase. When it came to transcending the tribulation, not to mention 20%, even 5% might be the difference between life and death. He retracted his gaze. Zhu Chen looked at Kong Yi. There's nothing else to see. Let's go. If you have the chance, I also suggest that you walk the physical sanctification system. I can't see anything now, but when the number of experts in the physical sanctification system increases in the future, some things will naturally appear. Regarding this, Kong Yi sighed in his heart. Then, he nodded and said calmly, Forget it, let's go back. Elder Zhu seems to have gained a lot from this observation. I wonder when you plan to start transcending the tribulation? At least 1 year, at most 3 years. I will definitely start transcending the tribulation. Zhu Chen's tone was calm, but it was filled with great confidence. Although he had not reached his limit, he was not far from it. 3 years was already a conservative estimate, he said seriously. Zhu Chen was confident that he could accumulate his foundation to the limit in about a year, and then transcend the tribulation to become an immortal. When the 2 elders of the 9-headed dog clan left, the other experts of the 10,000 races who were watching also quietly retreated. This observation, every expert had gained a lot. Jin Linghuang's success in transcending the tribulation could be said to be exciting. It was the first time that someone had successfully broken through to the perfected immortal realm using a non-traditional system since the Heavenly Court announced the 3 major systems. It made them completely believe that the path ahead was possible. Although Xiao Chengfeng and the others had succeeded in transcending the tribulation long before Jin Linghuang. However, the effects of the 2 were completely different. It was predictable. After Jin Linghuang succeeded in transcending the tribulation, the physical sanctification system would definitely prevail. Chapter 790. Jin Linghuang has successfully transcended the tribulation. The myriad races will have many perfected immortals of the physical sanctification system in the future. In the heavenly palace, Qin Shujian smiled slightly. In front of him, it was a mirror condensed from vital essence. The scene in the mirror was where Jin Linghuang had just transcended the tribulation. The Xiantian mirror. It was a small method of spying on heaven and earth in the 3rd era. It was not very useful. If it was used against some powerful existences, it would be detected by the other party. However, with Qin Shujian's strength, unless it was Chu Kuangtu, who had broken through to the 7th level of immortal, no one else would be able to detect it. Because the remaining perfected immortals, compared to him in terms of strength, the gap between them was not ordinary. Therefore, everything that happened when Jin Linghuang was transcending the tribulation did not escape Qin Shujian's eyes. In his opinion, when the other party was transcending the tribulation, he had already taken the wrong path. If it weren't for the fact that he was the emperor of a race and had a very deep foundation, he might have failed the tribulation. Now that he had succeeded, luck played a large part in this. With a wave of his hand, the Xiantian mirror dissipated. Qin Shujian suddenly missed the heavenly court of the 3rd era. It's time for me to refine a heavenly mirror. After all, no matter what, I'm still the emperor of heaven. Without a heavenly mirror, it's not right. He didn't know if it was a coincidence or not. In the ancient times of this era, the heavenly court had a heavenly mirror. However, in the heavenly court of the 3rd era, there was also a supreme treasure called the heavenly mirror. However, compared to the heavenly mirror of the ancient heavenly court, which was only a 9-seal Dao artifact, the heavenly mirror of the 3rd era was a true supreme treasure. It was not something that the current 9-seal Dao artifact could compare to. Even the investiture of the gods, which was now nourished by the power of the gods, there was no way it could compare to the heavenly mirror of that era. Now that I have the investiture of the gods, I should also have the heavenly mirror. However, I can't be careless about the materials to refine the heavenly mirror, Qin Shujian thought to himself. Whether it was the investiture of the gods or the heavenly mirror, they were all supreme treasures that surpassed the current era. Even the forgers of this era were unable to forge these 2 items, so Qin Shujian did not intend to rely on others. The only thing that bothered him was the material used to refine the heaven-reaching mirror. No matter what. Even if he couldn't refine a heaven-span mirror comparable to the 3rd era, he couldn't be too careless. An idea formed in his mind. Qin Shujian immediately grabbed the investiture of the gods and checked his inventory inside. The important materials were all placed in the investiture of the gods. As for the things in the storage ring, they were all relatively ordinary. His mind sank into the investiture of the gods. Immediately, everything in the vast space was exposed to his senses. The corpse of a star beast. More than 100 star cores. Withdrawing his consciousness from the investiture of the gods, Qin Shijian's face darkened. He realized that he was still quite poor. Other than the corpses of star beasts, the investiture of the gods only had star cores. However, although the inventory was monotonous, both the star beasts' corpses and star cores were precious treasures. After all, the star beasts' corpses and the investiture of the gods were at least at the middle 3 levels of true immortal. As for the star cores, they could only be obtained by destroying stars. Even the weakest stars. To a certain extent, they were comparable to true immortal experts. I can't use the star cores. Now I haven't gathered 365 star cores. If I use them without authorization, I don't know when I will be able to gather enough star cores to refine Zhou Tian's star map. The only thing that can be used is the star beast's corpses. Qin Shijian focused his attention on the star beast's corpses. Although the star beast's corpses could also be used to refine Zhou Tian's star map, they were not necessary. But at the same time, the star beasts were true immortals when they were alive. Their bones, flesh, and blood were rare treasures. It was enough to refine the heaven-span mirror. In this case, I can only use the star beast's corpses. Qin Shijian made up his mind. Although refining the heaven-span mirror was a spur-of-the-moment thing, it was also something that he had to do. In the huge heavenly court, if there was no treasure to monitor the world, it would be inexcusable. After making up his mind, Qin Shijian did not waste any time. He simply waved his hand, and the originally spacious heavenly palace seemed to be magnified thousands of times in an instant. Mustard seed Sumeru. For a 9th-level immortal expert, this was an ordinary method. The heavenly palace became bigger. With a thought from Qin Shijian, a star beast corpse directly appeared here. A 1,000,000 feet long body lay horizontally. That was to say, the space in the heavenly palace had been expanded. Otherwise, the entire heavenly palace would have exploded. But even so, the pressure from the star beast's corpse also put a lot of pressure on the heavenly palace. This star beast's corpse, when it was alive, it had at least the strength of a 6th-level immortal. Just by relying on its pressure alone, it could crush ordinary heavenly beings to death. Even if it was an ordinary Tao artifact, there was no possibility of resisting this pressure. But the heavenly palace was different. Qin Shijian personally refined the heavenly palace. Although it was not a Tao artifact, seriously speaking, its power had long surpassed the level of a Tao artifact. In addition, he lived in the heavenly palace all year round. Under the influence of the powerful aura, the heavenly palace also underwent a transformation. So, no matter how powerful the aura of the star beast's corpse was, there was no way it could collapse the heavenly palace. Even if it died, its aura is still so powerful. Its strength when it was alive can be imagined. In the sea of consciousness, God Slayer also sighed with emotion. The corpse of a 6th-level immortal. He couldn't help but be shaken by the fact that he had appeared here so openly. When he was in the ancient heavenly court, a 6th-level immortal was also an important expert. The star beast's corpse in front of him was only a terrifying existence sealed in one of the 365 ancient stars. Thinking of those ancient stars, God Slayer also sighed with emotion. To be honest, before those star seals were broken, I didn't know that there were such terrifying existences sealed in those ancient stars. If all the ancient star seals were broken during the ancient heavenly court's era, even with the strength of the heavenly court at that time, it would have suffered a great impact. Although the heavenly court at that time was powerful, but in fact, there weren't many true immortals. The current heavenly court had more than 1,000 true immortals, and the ancient heavenly court only had more than 300 true immortals. And most of those true immortals were only in the lower 3 true immortals. Those who could reach the middle 3 true immortals were all incomparably powerful existences. As for the upper 3 true immortals, to be honest, only those powerful emperors were qualified to reach this realm. If it weren't for the existence of Qin Sun, the Emperor of Heaven, the ancient heavenly court wouldn't have been able to compete with the current heavenly court with their true strength. To this, Godslayer was filled with emotion. It turned out that unknowingly, the strength of the current heavenly court had already reached such a level. It was hard for him to imagine. More than 10 years ago, there wasn't a single true immortal among the myriad races. Chapter 791. More than 10 years. From not having a single true immortal to now having thousands of true immortals, the combined strength of the myriad races was not weaker than in ancient times. It could be said that the person who allowed the myriad races of the 4 great continents to develop to this point was the Emperor of Heaven. The ancient Emperor of Heaven's surname is Qin. You, Emperor of Heaven, are also surnamed Qin. If I didn't know that there was no connection between the two, I would have to suspect that you are the reincarnation of the ancient Emperor of Heaven. The Godslayer sighed. It could be said that the one surnamed Qin was indeed powerful. The only 2 Emperor of Heaven were both surnamed Qin. And compared to the ancient Emperor of Heaven, the current Qin Shijian gave him a stronger feeling. Of course. In terms of true foundation, Qin Shijian was definitely not someone Qin Tsang could compare to. After all, no matter how strong Qin Tsang was, he stopped at the half-step Dao fruit level. No matter what, Qin Shijian was also a Dao fruit level existence in his previous life. Although he had not fully recovered his cultivation in this life, his strength had broken through to the 9th level immortal level. The number of experts the god-slaying saber had encountered over the course of countless years was immeasurable. But there were so many experts. None of them had been able to cultivate to such a level in just over a decade. Although Qin Shijian's strength was not as strong as Qin Tsang's. But as long as he was given some time, it would not be difficult for him to reach Qin Tsang's level, or even surpass Qin Tsang's. The God-Slayer now thought very highly of Qin Shijian. He felt the turning point of his ancestral armament career would be determined by Chu Feng. Qin Shijian did not pay much attention to the God-Slayer's inexplicable words. His attention. It fell on the corpse of the astral beast in front of him. The ancient stars outside the great thousand realms definitely have to be dealt with. No matter what, the sealed astral beasts in them are an invisible problem. Either think of a way to subdue the astral beast or kill all of them. If we wait for the star beast to break out of its seal, the heavenly court will also suffer heavy losses. Qin Shijian said lightly. Although the ancient star had existed for countless years, the sleeping star beasts there showed no signs of breaking out of their seals. However, he didn't dare to be 100% sure. Those star beasts would continue to sleep in the stars. You have to know. Even star beasts had limited lifespans. Qin Shijian didn't believe that the star beast was in a deep slumber, but he didn't believe that the star beast wouldn't wake up even after death. In other words, sooner or later the star beasts of the ancient stars would reappear. Even if it wasn't born now, it would definitely be in the future. At most. It was just a matter of time. Qin Shijian had already made up his mind. After dealing with the 3 great clans, he would deal with those star beasts. With his current strength, he could even put up a fight against half-step Dao fruit existences. Now that his inner world was gradually perfecting, the number of nomological seeds that were born had also increased significantly. Compared to the previous battle with Ba Duo and the other demon emperors, Qin Shijian's strength had already risen by a level. Although he hadn't broken through to the half-step Dao fruit realm, he wasn't far from the half-step Dao fruit realm. According to his calculations, when all the first batch of creatures born in the inner world broke through to the perfected immortal realm, he should be able to break through to the half-step Dao fruit realm. When that time came, even if there were really powerful star beasts in the ancient stars, Qin Shijian would still be able to deal with them. Ever since Jianmu transcended the tribulation and became an immortal, many creatures in the inner world had gradually touched the perfected immortal realm. If they had a few more years to settle down, it wouldn't be difficult for them all to break through to the perfected immortal realm. In the end, as the first batch of creatures born in the world, their talents were extraordinary and extraordinary. Ordinary geniuses couldn't compare to them. His divine will landed on the corpse of the star beast. With the previous experience, Qin Shujian didn't waste much time this time. He directly dug out the star core and the star beast. He saw that the star core emitted a powerful aura, which was completely different from the other star cores. As expected, the star core in the star beast's body is not comparable to the star rivers of other stars at all. Looking at the star core in front of him, Qin Shujian smiled faintly. It was also a star core. The star core in front of him was many times stronger than the ones collected by the gods. When he saw this star core, Qin Shujian's heart itched. He had the guts to leave the great wide world right now and go to the outer realm to break all those ancient stars. Then, he would release the star beasts inside, kill them, and dig out the star cores. If the star cores used to refine the Zhou Tian star map were of that level, Qin Shujian believed. Even if the refined Zhou Tian star map couldn't be compared to the Khanate Cardinal treasure, it would still have amazing power. At this moment, Qin Shujian had already dug out the star core and then solemnly put it into the investiture of the gods. In the next moment, his true essence wrapped the entire star beast's corpse and put it away again with the investiture of the gods. After doing all these things, Qin Shujian held the investiture of the gods and took a step forward, leaving the range of the heavenly palace. At this moment, in the outer hall of the heavenly palace, Mu Yang was still stationed there. But even Mu Yang, who had broken through to the perfected immortal realm, couldn't sense Qin Shujian's departure. After leaving the heavenly palace, Qin Shujian had already taken a step forward and directly entered the heaven and earth astral wind layer. The heaven and earth astral wind layer was very big. The position occupied by the heavenly court could only be said to be insignificant compared to the heaven and earth astral wind layer. Because refining the heavenly mirror would cause a big commotion, Qin Shujian didn't intend to refine it near the heavenly court. Instead, he walked along the heaven and earth astral wind layer and walked into the distance. At the same time, the Vermilion Bird Emperor, who was in the great hall of the Sun Lord, also woke up from his seclusion. Emperor of Heaven! A scorching look flashed across the Vermilion Bird Emperor's eyes. In the next second, he flew out of the heavenly court like a flaming cloud. Not long after, she arrived at an unfamiliar heaven and earth astral wind layer. In front of her, Qin Shujian stood with his hands behind his back. His body didn't emit any powerful aura, but it seemed to be able to suppress the world. All the heaven and earth astral wind within 100 feet of him automatically dissipated. The Vermilion Bird Emperor flew forward, her fiery red dress accentuating her curvaceous figure. Her every movement exuded a different kind of charm. Greetings to the Emperor of Heaven! You're here! Qin Shujian didn't turn around. He only said a few words indifferently. The Vermilion Bird Emperor nodded and said, May I know why the Emperor of Heaven has summoned me? Ever since she became an immortal, Qin Shujian hadn't summoned her alone for several years. Now that he had broken through, he summoned her. The Vermilion Bird Emperor didn't believe that there was nothing important. To this, there was also a hint of joy in her heart. After all, the fact that Qin Shujian summoned her alone meant that he thought highly of her. If possible, the Vermilion Bird Emperor also wanted to leave a deep enough impression in Qin Shujian's heart. Chapter 792. I called you here because I need to borrow your Khanate divine fire. Qin Shujian paused for a moment as he spoke. How is your cultivation of the Khanate divine fire coming along these past few years? After breaking through to the true immortal realm, I have completely mastered the Khanate divine fire. After a few more years of cultivation, the power of the Khanate divine fire has increased significantly. Refining a true immortal won't be difficult. The Vermilion Bird Emperor looked confident when it came to the Khanate divine fire. The Vermilion Bird tribe. They were born with the ability to control divine fire. The Khanate divine fire was one of the most powerful flames in the world. It could be said that after mastering the Khanate divine fire, she was much more powerful than the average true immortal. In addition, the heavenly court was extremely close to the sun. The unique power of the true sun flame was also drawn over by her. They were both the most powerful flames in the world. The connate divine fire and the true sun flame complemented each other. As a result, the Vermilion Bird Emperor's achievements in the connate divine fire were even more shocking. Qin Shujian nodded. It would be best if you could refine a true immortal. It seems that your connate divine fire has reached a certain level. Since that's the case, help me refine something. That's not a problem. The Vermilion Bird Emperor agreed readily. Her beautiful face was filled with absolute confidence. After saying that, she asked again, "What does the Emperor of Heaven want to refine?" Hearing that, Qin Shujian waved his hand and the investiture of the gods flew out. Then, the investiture of the gods hovered in the atmosphere. Then, the corpse of a star beast appeared out of thin air. As soon as the star beast's body appeared, the surrounding void collapsed invisibly. The Vermilion Bird Emperor's face turned pale when a terrifying aura swept out. Emperor of Heaven! She didn't recognize the star beast, nor was she aware of its existence. Compared to the beasts she had encountered before, the Vermilion Bird Emperor was certain that none of those beasts could compare to the star beast in front of her. That terrifying aura. She couldn't help but feel her heart palpitate. From this, it could be seen. Just how terrifying would the giant beast be when it was alive? Qin Shujian said calmly. This is a star beast, an existence that was born in the stars. If it didn't die when it was alive, it would probably be a sixth heaven immortal. I need a star beast corpse to refine a supreme treasure. But because the star beast's mortal body is extremely strong, it's very difficult to refine it. I just happen to need your innate divine fire. The Vermilion Bird Emperor was momentarily at a loss for words at the sight of the star beast. The connate divine fire could refine true immortals. However, he was only a true immortal of the lower 3 levels. Even if he could refine the corpse of a 6th heaven immortal, the amount of time he would have to spend on it would definitely be extremely limited. However, since the words had already been spoken, it was impossible to refuse at this time. Regarding this, the Vermilion Bird Emperor could only nod. I'll do my best. Let's begin. Yes. The Vermilion Bird Emperor immediately revealed his Vermilion Bird true form. A gigantic vermilion bird appeared in the atmosphere. He flapped his wings. Boundless flames engulfed the world. The heatwave rushed toward him. Even though Qin Shujian hadn't faced the innate divine fire directly, he still felt a trace of heat. He wasn't too surprised by this. Innate divine fire. It was the most powerful flame in the world. It was the same no matter which epoch it was in. If such a divine fire could reach the peak of perfection, even Tao fruit level existences would have to be wary of it. The Vermilion Bird Emperor didn't have the qualifications to cultivate the innate divine fire to such a level. But if he could truly control the divine fire, he would be able to unleash extraordinary power. This epoch only has the true sun flame and the innate divine fire. It lacks the true samadhi fire of the previous epochs. Qin Shujian silently looked at the divine fire before him. Some thoughts formed in his mind. The true samadhi fire. The divine fire from the first epoch. That kind of divine fire wasn't naturally formed. Instead, it had to be cultivated. Compared to the true sun flame and the innate divine fire, a cultivated true samadhi fire was also an extremely terrifying existence. Unfortunately, even though Qin Shujian was the Emperor of Heaven in the third epoch, he couldn't obtain the cultivation method of the true samadhi fire. Otherwise, if he had the chance to cultivate the true samadhi fire, he wouldn't have to rely on the Vermilion Bird Emperor's innate divine fire to refine weapons. After all, in comparison, the true samadhi fire was more suitable to refine weapons. Thoughts surged in his mind. Qin Shujian's expression didn't change. He was still silently watching the scene before him. Monstrous flames swept across the sky and swallowed the star beast's corpse. The terrifying temperature. It incinerated the void into nothingness. In fact, it could even burn through the barrier of heaven and earth from the inside out. But even such a powerful temperature didn't seem to have any effect on the Star Beast's corpse. The Star Beast's corpse lay there quietly, allowing the innate divine fire to burn it. On the Star Beast's corpse, there were Taoist rhymes circulating. Under the burning of the innate divine fire, the Taoist rhymes bloomed with dense light. Then, weak Taoist rhymes collapsed and dissipated. But compared to the Star Beast's million-foot body, the collapsed Taoist rhymes were only an insignificant wisp of it. Your innate divine fire still needs to be strengthened, but it's powerful enough now. I believe it shouldn't be a problem to refine the Star Beast's corpse in less than a year, Qin Shujian said casually. Hearing this, the Vermilion Bird Emperor's action of activating the innate divine fire paused for a moment before returning to normal. Because she was in her vermilion bird form and the innate divine fire illuminated her body red, no changes in her expression could be seen. When the Vermilion Bird Emperor activated the innate divine fire, that shocking power was completely isolated by the heaven and earth astral wind layer. Looking up from the ground, one could only see that the sky was fiery red, as if there were countless flames forming clouds. No matter how the sun rose or set, that fiery red color didn't fade at all. It was also because of this reason. As a result, there was a place in the 4 continents that remained brightly lit day and night. North Continent. The Emperor of Heaven's clone walked there. It had been almost a month since he left the heavenly court. During this long period of time, he also hadn't found a suitable candidate. When the Vermilion Bird Emperor began to refine the Star Beast, the Emperor of Heaven's clone sensed something and looked up at the sky with a sneer on his face. You're already so arrogant after just becoming a true immortal. This is a good chance to let you understand that although the innate divine fire is powerful, it's not that easy to cultivate it to perfection. In his opinion, refining the Star Beast's corpse was enough to wake the Vermilion Bird Emperor up. Although the Emperor of Heaven's clone was a manifestation of Qin Shijian's power and shared their memories, it didn't mean that their personalities were the same. He looked away and continued on his way. Not long after, the Emperor of Heaven's clone saw a figure in front of him and smiled. Young man, I see that you have an amazing physique. Are you interested in becoming a world trader? Chapter 793. My name is Yi Hong. I come from the Nine Moons world. The Nine Moons world is a world where cultivation prevails. I used to be a direct descendant of a cultivation family in the Nine Moons world. I have lived a luxurious life and my cultivation talent is not bad. Not only that, he also had a beautiful and talented younger sister at home. Unfortunately, unforeseen events happen. My sister was originally engaged to another family's genius. Later, because that genius was crippled, my father brought my sister to break off the engagement. After all, a toad can't eat swan meat. A piece of trash. What right does he have to be worthy of my immortal sister? That's what my family thought. That's what I thought too. In the end, not long after the engagement was broken off, that piece of trash got lucky. Not only did his crippled talent recover, but it also improved to an unimaginable level. 1 month true martial arts. Half a year spirit martial arts. His cultivation progress was astonishing. That piece of trash became a genius, but he threatened to teach my family a lesson. A genius in my family was angry and went to find trouble with him, but he was crippled. Because the genius in my family was crippled, my father was furious. Then, he sent a powerful consecrator to eliminate the root of the problem. Unfortunately, he also failed. Since then, consecrator, guest, 7th elder, 6th elder, 5th elder, 4th elder, all the experts in my family tried to take action, but they all fell at the hands of that kid. Just when my father couldn't take it anymore and was about to take action, he realized that in less than 3 years, that kid had broken through to the legendary Celestial Being realm. Celestial Being. That's a top expert in the Nine Moons world. Although my family is strong, we only have one late-stage divine martial realm expert. And that late-stage divine martial realm expert is my father. Without a doubt. My father was beaten down as soon as he took action. That kid was unforgiving. Not only did he kill all the experts in my family, he also took my sister. In the end, he even crippled my cultivation and expelled me. The reason he did this was because I called him a piece of trash. Just like that. I went from a genius to a piece of trash, begging everywhere. Originally, he thought that he would just muddle through the rest of his life like this. However, out of nowhere, a game appeared. I heard from other people that entering the game could change one's fate. So, I took out all of my savings that I had been begging for 3 years and bought a gaming capsule. After entering the game, only then did I realize that my talent, which had been crippled, had returned. Moreover, leveling up in the game could increase my training speed in the real world. Even if I'm already crippled, I can still cultivate bit by bit on this foundation. From the moment he arrived, I just understood. This game will be the turning point of my life. Whether or not I can cultivate to an unprecedented level and avenge my family will all depend on this game. After painstakingly upgrading, I finally became the first person to walk out of the novice village. That day, I've been notified by the entire server. Some were jealous, some envied me, some worshipped me, and some wanted to cripple me. That kid was very powerful in the real world and had a large number of henchmen under him. Although they weren't that strong in the game, they had a lot of manpower. I had just walked out of the novice village and had only been free for a few days when I was surrounded by his henchmen. That battle. It was the most tragic battle since my family was destroyed. I was very strong, stronger than all of them. However, they had too many people. As the saying goes, 2 fists can't fight against 4 hands. No matter how strong I was, I couldn't fight against hundreds of people alone. In the end, I failed and sacrificed my first blood since I entered the game. Since then, that kid's henchmen put me on the wanted list and killed me every time they saw me. Thus, the number 1 player in the northern continent became the number 1 player from the bottom. Because of the drop in my level in the game, my cultivation in the real world didn't improve at all. I originally thought that I would be completely defeated by that kid for the rest of my life. However, I didn't expect. 10 years after the game started, that kid suddenly stopped killing me. Perhaps it was because I was only at the 0 stage of the basic realm, and wasn't worthy of his attention. Or maybe he wanted to wait for me to increase my level before coming back to kill me again. After all, as a second-generation cultivator, I could understand such a perverted mentality. Anyway, no matter what. After 10 years of being surrounded and killed, it was finally over. However, when I broke through and walked out of the resurrection point, I realized that the outside world had changed. The chicken that could be easily killed in the past could now peck me to death. After being killed by the monsters dozens of times, I realized that killing monsters to level up was no longer suitable for me, a player at the 0 stage of the basic realm. The reason why they let me go wasn't because they were tired of killing me, nor was it because they had some perverted mentality. It was because they thought that with my current strength, it was impossible for me to have any achievements in the game. I was angry. I was in despair. I couldn't accept it. I finally had a chance to rise again, but I didn't take it. Was I going to be a cripple for the rest of my life? Although I was originally a second-generation cultivator who had nothing to do, even if I was talented in cultivation, in more than 20 years of cultivation, I only managed to break through to the true martial realm. However, after my family was destroyed, I suddenly realized. Yihong. In this life, I won't idle around, nor will I be a cripple. After the initial depression, I began to climb mountains and wade through rivers, trying to find a chance to level up. However, the monsters in the game had become very strong, and those sects and clans looked down on me, a player at the 0 stage of the basic realm. After so many years, other than reviving hundreds and thousands of times due to various reasons, I didn't gain anything else. No. It wasn't that I didn't gain anything. The biggest gain was. It was that I understood why the monsters became so strong. The reason was the power of the stars. However, even the monsters could absorb the power of the stars between heaven and earth to cultivate, but because I didn't have any entry techniques, I didn't even have the qualifications to cultivate. So, I wasn't even as good as a chicken. I thought that my life would be like this, whether it was in the game or in reality. I wouldn't have a chance to turn things around. I was prepared to find a place in the real world to end my life. However, on this day, suddenly, a strange Taoist found me and said something that I didn't understand. World Trader. Although I didn't understand the specific meaning of this word, I could more or less guess the meaning. Although I, Yi Hong, lived without dignity, I definitely wouldn't be a traitor. Chapter 794. Senior, save me! Yi Hong directly knelt down and looked at the Emperor of Heaven's incarnation in front of him, crying bitterly. What dignity? What traitor? Go to hell. Although he didn't know the origin of the Taoist in front of him, everyone was stronger than him now. As long as he could get a thigh, or a normal thigh, he could get out of this embarrassing situation. The corners of the Emperor of Heaven's incarnation's mouth twitched. He hadn't thought about how to talk to Yi Hong yet. In the end, the other party was even more direct than him, leaving him at a loss for words. After a long while, the Emperor of Heaven's incarnation coughed lightly. Get up first. Yes, yes. Yi Hong wiped the tears from the corner of his eyes, then stood up from the ground, but his eyes were still filled with excitement as he looked at the Emperor of Heaven's incarnation. Junior Yi Hong, I haven't asked for Senior's name yet. Just call me Qin Er. The Emperor of Heaven's incarnation hesitated for a moment, and gave him a name. Qin Er's meaning was very simple. He was the second Emperor of Heaven's incarnation, so he called himself Qin Er. As for Qin Yi's words, he was the incarnation of the Emperor of Heaven who had entered the desolate great world and parasitized Fu Moyan's body. However, this name was only given to himself by Qin Er. As for whether the Qin Yi in his heart called himself that, it was unknown. So it's Senior Qin Er. Just by hearing Senior's name, this junior knows that you must be an otherworldly expert. Yi Hong continued to flatter him. To be honest, he didn't know who Qin Er was, but no matter who it was, he was definitely stronger than him. According to his experience, as long as he was stronger than him, he could lick him. But whether he could succeed or not depended on probability. In the first few years of his wandering life, he had also licked many strong people, but those strong people either turned a blind eye to him or were annoyed by him and directly slapped him to death. Until now, Yi Hong had never succeeded in licking anyone. But Qin Er was different. He was the one who took the initiative to strike up a conversation with him. As a result, Yi Hong believed that the turning point of his life was coming. Senior, what do you mean by the world you mentioned earlier? If there's anything I can do for you, please feel free to say it. He couldn't say the word traitor out loud. However, it could be clearly seen from his blazing gaze. Yi Hong was absolutely passionate about becoming a world trader. Qin Er put his hands behind his back and had a gentle smile on his face. When I met you, I could see your luck soaring into the sky. In the future you will definitely achieve great things. As the saying goes, how can a golden scale be a fish in a pond? Once it meets the wind and clouds, it will transform into a dragon. But if it doesn't encounter any storms, it's just a koi fish in the pond for people to admire. Senior, what do you mean? Yi Hong was puzzled. Regarding Qin Er's words, he was very puzzled. Hearing this, Qin Er smiled faintly. It's very simple. Little friend's current appearance is that of a hidden dragon in the abyss. If you can find the right opportunity, you can soar and become a true dragon of the ninth heaven. But if you don't encounter that opportunity, you won't have a chance to make a name for yourself in this lifetime. Senior, please enlighten me. Yi Hong immediately bowed down. He didn't care whether Qin Er was fooling him or not. Anyway, From the other party's tone, Yihang could hear that Qin Er was optimistic about him. Since he was optimistic about him, it proved that there was hope. Whether the NPC Taoist in front of him accepted him as a disciple or gave him a task, it could get him out of the current predicament. Qin Er said, "I can give you this opportunity, but you need to do one thing for me. If you can do this for me, it's not as simple as revenge. You can also get a lot of things that you didn't dare to imagine before." Revenge! Hearing these two words, Yihang's face changed slightly. "Senior, what do you know?" He found that Qin Er in front of him didn't seem to be as simple as he thought. It was more like he had real skills. Regarding this, Yihang was even more excited in his heart. It's good to have real skills, even if it's the ability of fortune-telling. As long as he could get a skill, he would have a chance to open up the situation in the game. At that time, even if he couldn't make a comeback, at least he could get out of the current predicament. "I know more things than you think." Qin Er smiled faintly. At this moment, there seemed to be a long gray river flowing in his originally black and white pupils. When Yihang met his gaze, he was instantly stunned on the spot. Because he saw a lot of things in Qin Er's eyes. There were scenes of him just entering the game, and also scenes of him being surrounded and killed. The shock in his heart was indescribable, causing Yihang to fall into a daze. Seeing this, Qin Er. He was also very satisfied with Yihang's reaction. Normally speaking, players were not involved in the existence of this world, but also involved in the real level. There was no way to leave a player's mark in the long river of time. But now, as the four-player worlds intensified the integration with the boundless world. As a result, the boundless world, to a certain extent, also had some real power. In this way, in the long river of time, it naturally captured the player's mark. And Qin Er, as the incarnation of Qin Shujian, although he couldn't have the strength of a level 9 immortal, it wasn't difficult for him to manipulate the long river of time. He simply pretended to be cool. After deepening Yihang's reverence for him in the depths of his heart, Qin Er said, "How about it? Are you willing to accept this mission?" "May I ask, Senior, what kind of mission are you talking about?" Hearing the voice, Yihang directly woke up from his daze. After he woke up, looking at Qin Er's eyes again, it was already a completely different color. Logically speaking, the more mysterious and unpredictable Qin Er's strength was, the more beneficial it was for him. But he didn't know why. At this moment, in Yihang's heart, there was a faintly discernible sense of crisis. That kind of crisis. It made him want to turn around and escape. However, Yihang didn't do so. First, he understood that it was impossible for him to escape. Second, he didn't want to give up this opportunity. Moreover, this was just a game world. Even if he was killed, he would just return to the resurrection point. All these years, Yihang couldn't remember how many times he had been killed. There was a good saying. After a long time, he got used to it. So, he didn't have any resistance to being killed and resurrected. Instead, he was used to it. Qin Er could also sense the fluctuations in Yihang's heart. "It's very simple. As long as you help me get rid of some people, I can give you what you want." "Get rid of some people?" Yihang looked puzzled. Killing mission? But he found it strange that he didn't receive any prompt. "That's right, get rid of some people." Qin Er nodded his head with a meaningful look on his face. "Get rid of some, the people in the 9 Moons Great World." Chapter 795. In the Astral Wind Layer. Several months had passed. The Khanate divine fire was still burning. Fortunately, the Vermilion Bird Emperor had become a perfected immortal and inherited the divine position of the Sun Star Lord. He had also reached the 3rd heaven immortal stage and was much stronger. Or else, she couldn't continue using the Khanate divine fire for so long. But even so, the Vermilion Bird Emperor felt that he had reached his limit. At this moment, the Taoist rhymes on the Astral Beast meat were almost gone. without the protection of the Taoist rhymes. The astral beast's body was also melting bit by bit. Beside the vermilion bird emperor, Qin Shujian was still standing there and watching. He didn't remove all the Taoist rhymes from the astral beast meat. Because if he did that, he wouldn't be able to reach a perfect state even if he refined the body. Hold on a little longer. It's about to be refined. Qin Shujian looked at the vermilion bird emperor and encouraged him. After thinking about it, he reached out again and pulled a large amount of astral energy over and forced it into the vermilion bird emperor's body. The astral energy entered his body. Instantly, the vermilion bird emperor's almost exhausted state recovered a little. He was replenished. The connate divine fire burned even more fiercely. Time slowly passed. Another half a month passed. The last trace of Taoist rhymes on the astral beast meat completely disappeared. When the Taoist rhymes completely disappeared, Qin Shujian suddenly moved, casting a spell with both hands, which landed on the star beast's body. Connate divine fire, increase the power! He shouted coldly. A fierce look flashed across the vermilion bird emperor's eyes. Then, he spat out a mouthful of blood. The connate divine fire, which was already powerful, swept across the sky like a dragon. Boom! With his blood essence, the power of the innate divine flame doubled. Great! Qin Shujian was overjoyed. His hands moved even faster. One spell after another fell. The astral beast's body also gradually melted. A few days passed. The power of that mouthful of blood was almost exhausted. The vermilion bird emperor was a little tired, but he didn't dare to stop the connate divine fire without Qin Shujian's orders. Emperor of Heaven, how much longer do you need? Qin Shujian's gaze landed on the star beast meat in front of him. His voice was calm and emotionless as he said, Hold on for a while longer and continue to use the innate divine fire. Don't worry about the consumption, I will compensate you later. Now, the refinement of the star beast had reached a critical moment. If the innate godly fire could not be maintained, even if the refinement was successful, its power would be greatly reduced. Hearing this, the vermilion bird monarch had no choice but to spit out another mouthful of blood essence to activate the innate divine fire. In the sky above the astral winds. At some point in time, the heavenly tribulation had been born. The next moment, like a broken dam, monstrous lightning bolts bombarded the star beast. Rumble! The vast might of the lightning was unable to intimidate Qin Shujian, or the vermilion bird emperor. After all, although the power of the lightning was strong, it was only at the celestial level. Even the weakest of the two was an elite at the peak stage of the third heaven immortal realm. This kind of lightning could be extinguished with a wave of his hand. Thunder rumbled. Day and night. Under the combined effects of the innate divine fire, the lightning, and the spell, the corpse of the star beast melted at an extremely fast speed. The essence of the flesh and blood was completely refined. Only the pale golden bones were left exposed to the air. 3 days later, the power of the heavenly tribulation increased by another level. However, Qin Shujian's expression did not change as he continued to refine the corpse of the star beast. On the other side, after the heavenly tribulation was formed, its power grew stronger day by day. The location that Qin Shujian chose was quite far from the heavenly court. However, as the power of the heavenly tribulation increased, this vast power gradually affected the celestial court as well. What kind of supreme treasure is the Emperor of Heaven refining? This power is too shocking. In the heavenly court, Xiao Qingfeng's expression was a little shocked. Even if only a trace of that power leaked into the heavenly court, he could sense how terrifying it was. If he faced this power directly, even he would not be able to resist it so easily. As early as when the vermilion bird emperor left, and when the innate divine fire burned for several months, the matter of Qin Shujian refining supreme treasures was no secret. However, what Xiao Qingfeng did not expect was that a supreme treasure refined by Qin Shujian would have such power. One had to know that. In the world, the most powerful supreme treasure that could be refined by humans was the Nine-Seal Dao artifact. The Nine-Seal Dao artifact was the key. There was no possibility of further improvement. As for the Zhu Bing, it was a divine weapon on another level. Moreover, the Zhu Bing could not be refined by humans. It could only be born after receiving enough faith. Therefore, even if Qin Shijian's forging skills were heavenly, he could only refine the Nine-Seal Dao artifact. The Nine-Seal Dao artifact. For true immortals, only the lower three true immortals would use it. For experts above the fourth true immortal level, the Nine-Seal Dao artifact would not be of much help. Because of this, the thunder tribulation of the Nine-Seal Dao artifact could not be too powerful. After all, this was the upper limit of the Dao artifact. How powerful could the thunder tribulation be? But now, Xiao Chengfeng hesitated. The power of the thunder tribulation was enough to shock the middle three true immortals. If such a divine weapon was born, he would never believe that it was just a Nine-Seal Dao artifact. It's very powerful. If this divine weapon is formed, it will be more powerful than the average Zhu Bing. The sky-breaking halberd appeared beside Xiao Chengfeng. As a five-tribulation Zhu Bing, he could clearly feel the vastness of the power, and the power of the unborn divine weapon. Wu Ming said, "Since the birth of heaven and earth, the most powerful weapon is the Nine-Seal Dao artifact. This is the limit of the rules. No matter how powerful a divine weapon is, it belongs to the Nine-Seal Dao artifact. However, it does not mean that all Nine-Seal Dao artifacts are on the same level. Just like in the ancient heavenly court, the heavenly mirror and the immortal leaderboard were more powerful than the average Nine-Seal Dao artifact. They were comparable to the third or fourth tribulation Zhu Bing. The supreme treasure refined by the Emperor of Heaven would definitely not surpass the Nine-Seal Dao artifact. However, in terms of actual power, it's hard to say. The Nine-Seal Dao artifact was only relative. The powerful Nine-Seal Dao artifacts were the heavenly mirror and the immortal leaderboard of the 10,000 clans. The weak Nine-Seal Dao artifacts were the average ones that could barely contend with the first or second tribulation Zhu Bing. What had to be understood was, every time Zhu Bing transcended a tribulation, the power was not comparable to the past. There was naturally no way to measure the difference between the first or second tribulation Zhu Bing and the third or fourth tribulation Zhu Bing. Xiao Chengfeng heard this and nodded slightly. Although he was the reincarnation of the ancient immortal Lord Haotsang, he did not know everything. In comparison, Wu Ming was born in ancient times and knew more things. Although the other party was only a third tribulation Zhu Bing, in terms of knowledge, even the sky-breaking halberd could not compare. Chapter 796. It's time for you to transcend the tribulation. Xiao Chengfeng glanced at him and said calmly, "After so many years of accumulation, it's enough for you to transcend the fourth tribulation. There's no need to suppress it anymore." "Well, it's about time." John Doe nodded slightly, and did not deny it. Although Zhu Bing's tribulation was dangerous, it was only a tribulation in the future. For example, the previous calamities were actually not that dangerous. With the accumulation of millions of years of accumulation, the probability of him successfully transcending the tribulation was still very high. One day later, in the atmosphere of heaven and earth, countless thunder tribulations were born. Below the thunder tribulations, a stone spear stood in the air. There were faint bloodstains on the body of the spear, and a powerful aura was faintly discernible. Zhu Bing transcending the tribulation! Some perfected immortal experts directly looked through the atmosphere of heaven and earth and saw the scene in the sky. When they saw Zhu Bing bathing in the thunder tribulations, all the perfected immortals' expressions changed. For John Doe, no one would not recognize him. The ancestral weapons of the 10,000 races in the 4 great continents could be counted with one's fingers. Originally, the monster race had the heavenly monster temple, but after the heavenly monster temple was destroyed, only the human race had a few Zhu Bing left. Apart from that, the other races did not have Zhu Bing. After all, it was not easy to give birth to a Zhu Bing. In many cases, it was not easy to condense sufficient power of faith. Especially for some races with few members, it was even more difficult to give birth to a Zhu Bing. In the previous few battles, John Doe had also followed Emperor Zhao to fight, so he was quite famous. Of course, they all knew that. This Zhu Bing did not belong to Emperor Zhao, but it came from Shao Chengfeng. Thinking of Shao Chengfeng, some perfected immortals' eyes lit up. Not only was this war god of the East Pole powerful to begin with, but he also had a fifth tribulation ancestral weapon, the sky-breaking halberd. Now that Wu Ming had successfully transcended the tribulation, his mighty power would definitely rise to another level. When the time came, Shao Chengfeng would have two extremely powerful Zhu Bing. At that time, in terms of overall strength, he could probably be considered the number one god in the heavenly court. After all, the strongest people in the heavenly court were probably Emperor Zhao, Shao Chengfeng, and the demon Emperor Si Hai, who had broken through to the fifth heaven immortal realm. Although there were more than 3 middle-level true immortals in the heavenly court, there were more than 3. However, there was still a gap between the other immortals and gods if they wanted to be on par with the 3 of them. However, neither Emperor Zhao nor Si Hai had Zhu Bing in their hands. Shao Chengfeng had 2 Zhu Bing in his hands. Needless to say, his strength had increased tremendously. They were both middle 3 true immortals. Possessing an ancestral armament, and not possessing an ancestral armament, the disparity in strength was simply enormous. Not to mention, Shao Chengfeng even possessed 2 ancestral armaments by himself. It was just that none of them had truly fought against each other, so there was no way to determine who was the strongest person below the Emperor of Heaven. At this moment, in the astral wind layer, the thunder tribulation kept bombarding. Before, there was Qin Shujian refining supreme treasures, and after that, there was Zhu Bing going through the tribulation. For a moment, the vast and terrifying aftermath of the thunder tribulation kept wreaking havoc in the astral wind layer. Even the heavenly court was affected a lot. However, the heavenly court was protected by arrays. It was impossible to shake the heavenly court with just the aftershocks of the lightning tribulation. Zhu Bing was going through the tribulation. It came quickly and left quickly. In less than 7 days, the thunder tribulation disappeared. Only a stone spear pierced through the air and transformed into a human figure, landing in front of Shao Chengfeng. Fortunately, I didn't disappoint you. John Doe smiled slightly, looking calm and relaxed. It was impossible to tell that he had just gone through the tribulation. Not only that, even the aura on his body was completely restrained. If he hadn't deliberately revealed it, no one would have been able to tell that the Wu Ming before them was an extremely powerful ancestral armament. Shao Chengfeng nodded. You succeeded in going through the tribulation, but you didn't reveal any aura. Your foundation is much stronger than I thought. I'm afraid it won't be a problem for you to go through the 5th tribulation. He originally thought that John Doe's 4th tribulation would be a little dangerous. But in fact, John Doe's 4th tribulation was as simple as eating and drinking. John Doe's foundation. It was completely beyond Shao Chengfeng's expectations. With such a foundation, even if he went through the 5th tribulation, it wouldn't be too big of a problem. John Doe shook his head. The 4th tribulation is a little different from the 5th. The sky-breaking halberd will know that with my current foundation, the success rate of going through the 5th tribulation is not high. If I really want to go through the tribulation, I still need to settle down for a while. After saying that, the sky-breaking halberd also said, the 5th tribulation is indeed much more difficult than the 4th. If Zhu Bing has an 80% success rate of going through the 4th tribulation, then the success rate of going through the 5th tribulation may only be 10%. Once Zhu Bing breaks through to the 5th tribulation, there will be a lot of changes. Yes. Shao Chengfeng nodded and didn't delve into this issue, even if he had John Doe for a long time. That said, Chu Feng's understanding of that ancestral armament was still very limited. In Shao Chengfeng's eyes, John Doe had a lot of secrets. But if John Doe didn't want to tell him these secrets, he couldn't force him to. After all, Zhu Bing had existed since ancient times, and it was even older than the sky-breaking halberd and the God's lair. So far, it was only going through the fourth tribulation, which was unusual in itself. And when it came to going through the tribulation, it was so easy. Obviously, John Doe could easily go through the tribulation. But John Doe still suppressed his realm. It would be a lie if Xiao Chengfeng said that he wasn't curious at all. But curiosity was curiosity. He didn't want to ask too much. If John Doe wanted to say, he would naturally say it. If he didn't want to say it, he wouldn't get any results even if he kept asking. Immediately, Xiao Chengfeng put the two Zhu Bing into his sea of consciousness, and then flew away. Zhu Bing's tribulation caused quite a commotion. If he directly attracted the lightning tribulation in the heavenly court, even with the protection of the array formation, most of the heavenly court would be destroyed. So when he went through the tribulation, he specially took Zhu Bing to an empty place to go through the tribulation. Now that he had succeeded, he returned to the heavenly court. On the other side, the lightning tribulation was still bombarding. When the Vermilion Bird Emperor had used up most of her blood essence, and almost dropped her realm, she finally heard something that made her heave a sigh of relief. "You can put away the connate divine fire!" The calm voice sounded like the sound of nature in the Vermilion Bird Emperor's ears. She hurriedly put away the connate divine fire and the Vermilion Bird true form, revealing her original human form. However, it was different from before. The Vermilion Bird Emperor's face was frighteningly pale and her aura was erratic, as if she would die at any moment. This was the result of using up too much blood essence. No matter how powerful an existence was, blood essence was extremely precious. Too much blood essence. Even a perfected immortal could die. Chapter 797. The Vermilion Bird Emperor had used up a lot of her blood essence, but it wasn't to the point of death. However, such a loss. It was difficult for her to maintain her cultivation level. If he didn't get any replenishment, it wouldn't be long before he fell from the third level of Immortal Realm, or even from the true Immortal Realm to the Deva Realm. Qin Shujian waved his hand. He threw a few drops of blood essence toward the Vermilion Bird Emperor. "This is the blood essence of the Star Beast. It's enough for you to recover." "Thank you, Emperor of Heaven!" The Vermilion Bird Emperor bowed and grabbed the blood essence. The surging power within it caused her to be slightly shocked. So powerful! Although there were only 3 drops of blood essence in front of her, the energy contained in each drop was many times more powerful than the blood essence she had used. She could faintly hear the roar of a beast from the blood essence. When the Vermilion Bird Emperor heard it, she felt her divine soul tremble. She was sure. The blood essence in front of her was definitely not something an ordinary star beast could possess. Middle third level of the true immortal realm. Upper third level of the true immortal realm. Although she didn't know the level of the blood essence in front of her, there was no doubt that if she could refine these 3 drops of blood essence, she could definitely recover her previous consumption. No, not just replenish. The Vermilion Bird Emperor suspected that she could use this opportunity to improve her cultivation level. Instantly, she grabbed the blood essence and flew toward the heavenly court. There was a lightning tribulation here. If she wanted to refine it here, it would be very risky. At the same time, the Vermilion Bird Emperor had used up a lot of energy and couldn't recover in time. It was necessary for her cultivation level to fall. Therefore, refining the blood essence was urgent. Qin Shujian didn't care about the Vermilion Bird Emperor's departure. At this stage of the refinement, she was no longer of any use. In front of him, the star beast's body had been completely refined and was replaced by a sea of lightning. It was a dangerous place formed by the continuous lightning tribulation. Within the range of the sea of lightning, even the wind of heaven and earth couldn't possibly exist. Qin Shujian formed a hand seal and a mysterious Taoist rhyme was imprinted into the sea of lightning. When the Taoist rhyme was imprinted, a terrifying aura gradually rose within the sea of lightning. After some time, boom! A deep and melodious chime of a bell rang out from within the lightning sea. In an instant, it resounded throughout the entire great thousand world. All the experts who heard the bell raised their heads instinctively. At that moment, the sound of the bell filled his ears. Even someone as strong as a true immortal was unable to isolate the bell chime. In the depths of the sea of death, Yang, who had fallen into a deep slumber, was awakened once again. However, unlike the previous few times when he was startled awake, this time, there was an extremely tyrannical bell chime that forcefully broke through the barrier of the sea of death's shattered rules and entered his ears. Where did that sound come from? In the depths of the sea of death, the huge stone statue shook. Ever since his power was stolen, he had fallen into a deep slumber. But now, he was woken up again. Although the sound of the bell was not loud in his ears, it was extremely penetrative. He was woken up for no reason. Yang's mood was naturally not good. Originally, his temperament had already become indifferent. However, ever since his strength had been stolen, the irritation that had disappeared for a long time had once again surged. He was a half-step Tao fruit expert. He only needed a simple calculation to understand the origin of the bell ringing. It's you! It's you again! Yang was furious. His furious roar rang out in the depths of the sea of death, shaking the void so much that it could not heal. Normally speaking, he had no way of calculating Qin Shujian's existence. However, there was a slight connection between the two. In addition, Yang was already a half-step Tao fruit expert, so he could deduce some clues. Just by relying on this little clue, he finally understood where the bell chime came from. Qin Shujian. Yang was extremely furious. Towards this thief who had stolen his power, he wanted nothing more than to extract his soul and devour it cleanly. However, there was no other way. Ever since Yang was born, it had been sealed here. Even though his strength had reached the peak of this world, there was no way he could break the seal of heaven and earth. Don't give me a chance to get out. I must kill you! Yang's heart was filled with unwillingness. His furious roar caused the surface of the sea to tremble. The nearby true immortal beasts could not dodge in time and were instantly shattered by the roar. They fled in all directions in fright. Boom! An arrow streaked through the void and instantly pierced through a beast. Zhang Ergu waved his hand and threw a red lotus of delusion towards the ferocious beast. What's going on? Where did the bell chime come from? Looking at the beast being devoured by the red lotus of purgation, he had a puzzled look on his face. He had been in the sea of death for so long. Zhang Ergu had never heard of the so-called bell chime in the sea. In his hand, the bow of Cosmos' aged voice sounded. This is a divine weapon, a very powerful one. Some powerful divine weapon must have been born in the world. It can penetrate the sea of death with just sound. Even an ordinary nine-sealed Tao weapon doesn't have such power. A top-notch divine weapon? Zhang Ergu was still puzzled. What kind of top-notch divine weapon could penetrate the sea of death with just sound? Before he could figure it out, monstrous waves rose from the depths of the sea. Countless terrifying auras rose and approached at an extremely fast speed. At that moment, Zhang Ergu's face instantly turned green. Where did so many perfected immortal beasts come from? Why are you still asking so many questions? Hurry up and run! The bow of Cosmos was exasperated. At this time, he was still thinking so much. Hearing this, Zhang Ergu immediately reacted and immediately fled into the distance. At this moment, he didn't have time to think too much about why so many perfected immortal beasts suddenly appeared. Not to mention a large number of perfected immortal beasts. Even a true immortal ferocious beast would be able to eat him alive. If he really fell into the encirclement of so many perfected immortal beasts, Zhang Ergu shuddered. So, he fled. He fled very decisively. Early on when he entered the inner area, Zhang Ergu had encountered perfected immortal beasts by chance, so he was extraordinarily proficient in escaping. At the same time as he fled, a 1,000,000-feet-long beast came over with a huge wave wrapped in the air with terrifying power. When the Sea of Death was once again rioting. Western Prefecture Heavenly Abyss. Een, who existed in the depths of Heavenly Abyss, was also furious at this moment. The sound of the bell woke him up from his deep sleep. The first thing he thought of was Qin Shujian. In an instant, Een wanted to kill his way out of Heavenly Abyss and then devour Qin Shujian. At the bottom of Heavenly Abyss, a terrifying beast whose shape couldn't be seen clearly rose. Countless universal chains let out clanging sounds, forcibly suppressing the beast that rose. At the same time, the melodious and heavy sound of the bell finally fell silent. You're tuning into the Phoenix Nights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.